The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Zack Sabre Jr., New Japan Cup winner 2018. And you're listening to Keeping It Strong Style with my mates. Enjoy.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll be previewing the finals of New Japan Cup and covering all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Young boy, cause any controversies today?
Let me start a controversy right now. You ready for this?
Yeah.
It is too bad that we are not recording in video just yet because I am decked out to the nines in green and sequin.
You know, you could take a screenshot, post it in the Discord.
I'm not feeling all of that. I might keep on the Macho Man hat, but that's about it. So basically what happened is I have to do this here, Jeremy, because I didn't get a chance to wear this shit during St. Patrick's Day. I was told we were going out, and I was excited, right? Called up friends. We're gonna go out to Dunedin. We're gonna have green beer. I'm gonna hop around while people play bagpipes and shit like that. Some drums. Gonna eat some corned beef and hash, or corned beef and cabbage. It's gonna be sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Love that shit. Then my girlfriend wasn't feeling it, so I try to be a good boyfriend. I'm like, hey, that's fine. I'll go drink the green beer on my own.
You just stay here, rest up. I'll go.
You stay here if you're not feeling up to it. I'll drink it for the both of us. I'll do it in memory of you. But then on the way there, start talking to a friend of mine now. Not a wrestling friend, but it is a friend that Jeremy.
Okay.
Not gonna name any names, but then
does the name start with an R?
Yeah. And having some now that you know who it is specifically, I gotta be less detailed, but suffice it to say, this friend was having some relationship issues. So I'm out there in Dunedin, I'm in the throes of it, bro. Like there's wall to wall people. But getting back to why I didn't wear the green shit, because I bought other stuff too. I thought we were gonna go silly goofy, but then it's just me. So I can't be solo out in public wearing a Macho Man Randy Savage green sequin hat and shamrock glasses and a bow tie and all that. Like I can't. You have to have like
a crew. It has to be the whole
crew.
Yeah.
You can't be the one guy on his own walking down the street like that, like those weird people in Ybor. So anyways, but I am out there wearing a shamrock hat. My girlfriend, or yeah, my girlfriend's grandfather left it to her, and she was like, "Here, wear this for good looks, good luck." So I'm like, "Yeah, I'll wear this old man hat and I'll rock with it." And I'm walking down the street. Turns out, buddy can't come. Girl's not coming. Whole crew's not out there. So I'm literally just by myself on the streets of Dunedin. And if you don't know what the streets of Dunedin during St. Patrick's Day are like it's just a sea of fucking people, and that's the last place I want to be on my own. So came home, didn't get to wear this green shit, but I get to wear it here.
Well, I'll take in your green gear here, looking very well. Yeah, St. Patrick's Day. Me and the wife, we did a double date. One for her friends. Went to Hyde Park to Sur La Table. Did a little Irish cooking class. So we cooked our own corned beef. We had the cabbage mixed up with the mashed potatoes. Had the Irish whiskey cake. Had the Irish soda bread. It's pretty good.
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Well, you know what Rich is trying to basically tell all of us as far as like theories about the Irish people go.
Yeah, he was out here saying that Irish people were darker back in the day.
Significantly, apparently.
People always used to say I have a Irish last name, so maybe they're
Bro, you know what you should do? Come back to wrestling class with me and we'll start a gimmick where we're both Irish and we'll put an O in front of your name.
Jeremy
Donovan.
Oh man. Yeah.
That might start some controversy, similar to the controversies that you were trying to insinuate about when the show started. So, I'm sure some of the Jeremy, I feel like Twitter's probably not the best place for me. And my not that I can't handle it. I'm not sure that people can understand my tone of humor, because even though there was a lot of likes to what I found to be a very hysterical tweet, there is some angry people, bro.
Twitter/X is an angry place.
Here's the thing. Like, I'm allowed to do one bad thing because of the one or two good tweets I put out per year, and they like counter each other.
It's still an angry place, man. Gone are the days where you could have, good back and forth discourse on there. You can just, make your point, have a friendly conversation. Those days are gone. Everybody's got to come in. Everybody's trying to, dunk on somebody, bury somebody, trying to get into fights.
Here's the thing that people didn't realize is, like, while they were on there fighting, I was out drinking the green beer. I really was not. I got the phone on. I'm like, what the fuck happened here?
Well, we had a question here that kind of goes along the lines of the tweet that you made that got so much heat here from
oh shit. Is it in reference to my
No, but it's kind of some stuff you brought up. So this is from Reddit user 6broken6word6. Says, where do you see the future of NJPW heading creatively? More Memphis Heat style booking, a return to work rate focused 5-star matches. The booking of Evil/House of Torture post-COVID seems to indicate a belief in heat over everything. Dastardly cheating heels versus white meat babyfaces. BC has always, in one way or the other, been a heat-based faction, but nothing to this overt level. Is this a temporary strategy that Goto and company believes will maintain the company during this down period, or a seismic shift in overall creative philosophy going forward?
Well, I wish we knew the answer to that. I wish I could give you a concise answer, be like, our sources in the back have been in the meetings during, whatever, and they know exactly what's going on, and this is the strategy. Like, I don't know, man. This stuff with House of Torture, it could literally just be like a one tour story.
Mm-hmm.
But we just lost Okada. We just lost Will Ospreay. They just lost Tamatonga. And for the time being, at least temporarily, like, Tanahashi's out. That's like a lot of star power. Then they refuse, for whatever reason, to elevate junior stars like Hiromu and Desperado to the heavyweight level right now. So that leaves you with sort of a sparse amount of people that you can focus on. And I can only tell you what I see. And what I see is like, there's a lot of young guys that they could be taking a risk on and focusing on them. And to some extent they are doing that, but that obviously they're not the main focal point. There are other groups that are receiving a lot of attention, namely LIJ, War Dogs, and House of Torture. And right now, most of this tour was based around House of Torture. Obviously, House of Torture didn't end up in the New Japan Cup Finals, but they were pretty much the terrorism of the brackets, terrorism of the quality of the tournament for the most part. And sure, it was mighty cathartic at the end to see them thwarted by Tsuji, one of the Reiwa Musketeer guys. Maybe that was the whole strategy, is elevating a young star by threatening, House of Torture and their dominance and everything like that. And then he goes through and we're supposed to love him for being the savior that, thwarted these guys. But to me personally, I'm just not a big fan of the sacrificing of the entirety of the tournament in favor of doing that story, that's just not for me personally. I would rather the tournament be great. Maybe you can have some storyline stuff like that going on, or we'll talk about it. I thought the Ren Narita Zack Sabre Jr. match was a positive step in the right direction from what I'd like to see from this group. But as far as the strategy that they're employing, I couldn't tell you specifically what they're doing, because it feels like we're going to have to wait and see if it's going to persist and be, and this sounds horrible, but a 6-month or a year-long storyline focus, or if this is just a tour-based thing. The last thing I'll say, and I'll kick it over to you, Jeremy, we did have a lot of focus on House of Torture in the fourth quarter last year, and that really wasn't a positive for their business at that point either. So I don't know. Maybe they've turned the corner here. There seems to be a lot of people that are in favor. Kind of like some gatekeeper-ish sort of stuff around this. But me personally, as a fan, I can't really enjoy it.
Yeah, I have not been enjoying it either. And I get the whole premise of, you have Tsuji kind of be the white meat babyface that finally vanquishes them, and you're supposed to be happy that he won. And I am happy that Tsuji won. He's going to the finals, but I think I was just more relieved that Evil or Narita were not going to the finals than being more happy for Tsuji. I was hoping, I was seriously, thank you, Lord, that Evil did not win this matchup. I don't want to see him go to the finals. I mean, there was a very real possibility of them doing Evil versus Sonata finals, kind of throwing back to that story. And so it's just sometimes it gets more of a, just a relief that Evil's not, or any House of Torture guys going to a final or going forward, versus actually being happy or ecstatic for the guy that they're trying to get over. And I think that it wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't all over the card, because not only do you have it happening in the singles tournament matches, the rest of the crew is in undercard tag matches. Some nights are 2 undercard House of Torture tag matches, plus sometimes there's the Bullet Club. You have Chase and Kenta and Gabe Kidd and Ishimori all teaming up too as well. So literally from top to bottom, there's so much interference and cheating and ref bump. By the time you get to the Evil Narita matches, it's just damn, how much more heat are we going to get? How much more of this do we have to take? And so, it was rough.
Well, he brings up a interesting, question, basically positing to us what we think the booking direction is going to be. And I mean, I can't tell you what it's going to be. The only thing we can do is look at what we've received recently. And I feel like we've been saying a similar phrase for quite a while now. And I'm not talking about for months. I'm talking about for years now, where we say we're in the middle of a transitionary period. And for a while, that really felt like that was the case. And I think that the reason we felt on this show, or at least, I can speak for myself. The reason I felt like it was transitionary is because, yes, while it was inevitable that we were going to see people go and see stars phased out, we really felt like there were so many young guys in the pipeline that they were getting ready to pull the trigger on, many of them back from excursion for a year, sometimes more. And it's not necessarily happening, or at least at the rate that me as a fan that I feel that it should be, just considering the climate of the professional wrestling space. And with that being the case, it just doesn't, I think we're getting too long in the tooth where we keep saying transitionary period. Like, I don't know at what point we arrive at the time frame where we say, this isn't transitionary anymore. This is just where we're at. And it's very frustrating because while, yeah, some of this stuff did catch New Japan off guard, there was so much of it that they knew was on the table for a very long time when it came to all these guys' contracts. And even if they weren't going to leave, putting the right puzzle pieces in place and positioning the right guys to be able to step into those spots. It's the one thing that, going back to 2015 and even prior to that, every single time there was an exodus from this company, people would say, New Japan does such a great job at developing stars and providing opportunities that you never have to worry when people leave because it creates opportunity and people step into that position. And now we're here again. We've been here many times before, but what feels different is we're relying on the old guard. Naito's the guy that's carrying the company. And, there have been some business uptick metrics in the first quarter of 2014 or 2024. And, I probably personally would put most of that on the fact that Naito and LIJ are the most popular draws in the company, and a lot of the focus is on that group right now. But he's got 2 bad knees, bad eye. He could go down anytime in the very, very near future.
Yeah.
And then what does this company have in terms of star power? Not potential, not like guys that you could see as being stars like Tsuji or, Umino, but like the top 4 stars in terms of like massive draws or whatever are pretty much like Tanahashi, Naito, Hiromu, and I don't know what, maybe Zach.
Yeah, maybe Zach. You maybe could slide Despy there, like a low kind
maybe
of
Desperado.
Yeah,
but 2 of those guys we're talking about are juniors. One guy's Gaijin. One guy's obviously way past the prime. And then you have Naito, who we're pretty much hinging everything on this year. And I don't think he's in the health to do that, to carry this company on his back. And instead of getting ready to now, again, I have to add some caveats here because it does feel like they're focusing on Tsuji at the moment, which is a positive step in the right direction. But we shouldn't have to be building Tsuji at this point in 2024. It should have already happened.
Yeah, I mean, based off the way he came in at Dominion last year, the crowd reaction, that match with Sonata, like that, just that one appearance alone was like, this guy's a star. He has it. There should have been plans to continue. I mean, you start him off in a world title match. Why was he not just kind of kept at that world title level instead of kind of being pushed back down in G1, kind of wrestling all of his peers, and kind of having to go through that, and then, wrestling Will in an awesome match, and then kind of being dropped back down and facing, Uemura at Wrestle Kingdom. I feel like they should have hit the gas on him. Not saying he had to win the title, but hey, there should have been more stuff with guys like Will Ospreay, Okada, the more top end guys.
Yeah, and all we can do is point to what we've received from Geto recently, and I'm not a fan of what the product has been doing in a lot of ways. And I also kind of see this weird sort of gatekeepery stance where there are those fans who are enjoying it, or either A, really do enjoy the storylines that are going on, even if there's a dip in quality, or B, there are those people who just stand for the promotion regardless of what the output is, or maybe even a combination of both. And I've seen the sentiment online where they're like, if you don't like it, stop watching,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like that's necessarily a fair assessment because the company is, number one, the flagship of all wrestling in Japan. If we're really talking about what major, what are the major wrestling companies in the world? You have basically just 4 truly major companies, and that's WWE and AEW in the West, CMLL, and then New Japan, and everything else is going to be a tier below that level. And you're telling people that are fans of the number one, you're telling people that they shouldn't watch, which has always been like, to me, I feel like that's one of the most self-defeating sort of things, because it doesn't need to be a niche thing. It needs to be something that does have appeal to people to be, I'm not saying like the casual fan, but people should be able to enjoy what they're fucking watching, especially since there's such a legacy and a track record of quality when it comes to this company. And then, what are you left with? You're left with 2 Western companies and Lucha Libre, and I'm not denigrating them, but it's clearly a different profile than New Japan. And there's a lot of people who only really want to watch Major League Wrestling, not to say that in a divisive way, but like they're not going to tune into Pro Wrestling Noah or All Japan Pro Wrestling or DDT or Dragon Gate. Like they want to be with the shits,
Yeah.
And then, but this company is putting out the House of Torture bullshit, and it's like the fans who don't enjoy that are less cultured or ignorant, or they just don't understand the cultural implications. Like, no, I don't think that's true. I mean, we've been watching this shit for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, and especially for us, we've since 2017 have watched every Road to show, every Lionsgate project, every Road to whatever, every big pay-per-view, every Cork and Hall show. Like, we've been watching, breaking down and analyzing this stuff. And I mean, there's a reason why we chose New Japan to cover for this podcast. Like, we were in love with the product, we were in love with the style, the sports-based presentation, the fighting spirit, the great simplistic pro wrestling storytelling. Like, New Japan offered something completely different than pretty much any other wrestling promotion in the world. And a lot of this kind of, positive kind of gatekeeping stuff, it kind of feels like pre-AEW times when WWE was pretty much the main show in town. And it's like, if you didn't enjoy it, people were, just don't watch. Like, no, like I want Daniel Bryan to be pushed correctly.
Better.
Yeah, like
be better.
Think about like that 2014 to 2017 time period with guys like Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn and all these incredibly talented guys that they were just plucking from the indies and that they weren't doing anything with. It's like, I know these are some of my favorite wrestlers. I want to see them get pushed correctly. Like, you're the number one promotion in the West. Like, why can't you, book correctly and have entertaining shows? And so it feels a lot like that. It's like, oh, you don't like House of Torture, you don't get it, you don't understand, the product is passing you by. And hey, if you like the House of Torture stuff, and I think somebody joined our Discord recently, it was like, I kind of like the House of Torture stuff, and hey, that's perfectly fine. If you like that kind of stuff, that's all on you. But that's not what New Japan was built upon.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always been some element of, this company's not fighting network rings. We're not watching Glate. This isn't wrestling from the chase. It's not sports centric in that aspect, even though it is more so than a lot of other alternative products. But there's always been interference. There's always been shenanigans. That's not what people are complaining about. We're complaining about the Russoism of it all, the spamming of it all, the overindulgence, which is getting tiresome. And we were saying this during the pandemic when House of Torture started, and it's persisted. I don't know. Go ahead.
And another thing too, I've seen Chris Charlton trying to link this back to AJ Styles and the Bullet Club, and the Bullet Club always getting heat, but I'm like, it's AJ Styles. Like, I'm sorry, Evil is not AJ Styles. Red Narita has not gone to an AJ Styles level. They're not Kenny Omega. They're not even Switchblade Jay White. And I know a lot of people.
AJ Styles is not walking through that door.
Yeah. I know a lot of people don't really always like Jay White, but I'm sorry, Jay White on top well, he's a great professional wrestler, and
they had incredible matches.
Yeah, Jay had incredible matches. AJ had incredible matches. Prince Devitt had incredible matches. Kenny Omega, obviously. Like, you go down the list of all the Bullet Club leaders. Yes, there was always interference and heat from the Bullet Club, but at least you got a great wrestling match out of a lot of their big main events.
Yeah, and while you're bringing up Prince Devitt, that's another point where, you know, this was a time where the company started to kind of break the glass ceiling on the idea that a junior heavyweight could or couldn't be a top star in New Japan. And we didn't see Hiromu or Desperado, who are both not in the middle of the IWGP Junior title scene currently. They were both left off of the New Japan Cup, so they're kind of just languishing in the, you know, tag team scene right now. Obviously, Super Juniors is around the corner, so they'll be in that. But, you know, I'm being told that they can't be in the tournament because they're juniors. They don't want to be heavyweight stars. They don't want to be paid like heavyweight stars. They're happy to be juniors, you know. Meanwhile, I've been sitting here for years watching Hiromu try to work this program where he's like, I want to be in the main event of a big show as a junior. But the reason he says that is because he has to be a junior. He can't be a heavyweight because they're not going to move him up to heavyweight, right? Mm-hmm. But like the Gatekeeper fans are like, no, he wants that. That's what he wants. You don't understand. And I'm like, I don't know if you understand the worked nature of character work. Like he doesn't. No, that's not actually what it is. That's what he's being told. And but then I have to turn around and watch Jungle Boy Jack Perry, who is clearly not a heavyweight, but he's working as a heavyweight. He's getting paid like a heavyweight, much less egregious, but very similar. Bryan Danielson, he comes in, wrestles Okada as a heavyweight. Bryan Danielson ain't no heavyweight. I know he wrestles like a heavyweight, but that's a guy who's a junior. Jack Perry's much more egregious because he comes in day one, never having worked in the junior ranks, and he's being presented as a heavyweight star, probably some TK pool. And that's fine. I'm not even angry about that. But then this company could have been pushing these two guys who are huge stars for a company that needs stars, who's not doing a good job right now building stars, to utilize those guys in key spots right now instead of putting them through the same storyline year after year for the same title with the same opponents. And it's like, no, we can't do that. It's not going to be, you know, it's going to break tradition. It's another short-sightedness to what they could be doing right now in the interim to fix these problems. And I thought we were past this in 2013 with Prince Devitt.
Yeah.
And we're not.
Yeah, I think we saw, you know, during the pandemic, obviously, they were very desperate for stars and drawing people. And I mean, they pushed Hiromu in New Japan Cup, and he was, you know, wrestled as a heavyweight.
And Desperado.
And yeah. And it was working out, and it was great. And also now with everything kind of getting back in order, yeah, they're like, oh, we have to go back to tradition and be more conservative. And now the time's like, you need to, you know, break the glass case. You need to, elevate Hiromu, elevate Desperado. You know, any guy you have on your roster that's a star, regardless of what weight class they're in, they should be pushed so you can draw more and have intriguing matchups and programs.
It wouldn't even need to be necessarily something that's, you know, these guys challenge for the world title and then fail and then jump back to junior. I'm not even saying that, but like, how awesome would, like, I don't know, just throwing it out there, ELP versus Hiromu, you know, Shingo versus Hiromu, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Desperado. Like, there's cool matches you could just kind of be doing. Ishii against either of those guys, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I feel like we're not doing all that we could be doing, and we're, you know, the company's focusing on the wrong people.
Yeah. And one last thing, you know, when it comes to the Heat with the Bullet Club, you know, the Heat used to be, these guys are so talented, but they're cheating. And so that's the Heat. Like, we know they can win without cheating, but they're cheating, and that's the Heat. And now the Heat is, they suck, and they're cheating to win, and they just suck. And to me, that's like Xbox Heat. That's go away Heat to me. Like, I want the Heat to be, they suck and they're win because they're cheating to win. Like, the Heat should be, they're so good, but they're still cheating to win.
Yeah, And even the times when the company does do better, right? Like in this last quarter, as I mentioned, the company's had some better houses year over year than they were the years prior. I've seen people that are, running out there to basically stand in front of the company and be like, they're doing amazing. This company, this group is reinvigorating New Japan. And then I talk to fans in Japan and they're like, no, that's not the vibe, like whatsoever. For every one anniversary show, Ota Ward City Gym, that they get an exceptional response, there's an entire fucking New Japan Cup where they're not getting that they're not the most overact. If anything, what I always hear is like the most overact is LIJ. And it's like, sure, these groups might be LIJ adjacent. Evil came from LIJ, just five guys, Sonata came from LIJ, but like they're not moving merch like LIJ. They're not getting their responses LIJ do. And the company never drew like this when Evil or Sonata were on top. It's kind of a Naito thing.
Yeah.
And these are modest bumps right now. We're not talking about a boom period where the company was literally profiting the most they ever have in the history.
Right.
In the history of their
fact
company.
that they were so hot they were doing double domes.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with all this stuff, it's just I have a hard time believing that the same fans that enjoyed Tanahashi versus Okada and Okada versus Omega and Omega versus Naito and all these rivalries, Ospreay Shingo, that all the fans that have enjoyed that over the last 5, 6, 7 years all of a sudden are just switching to being like, no, we really like the House of Torture stuff.
Well, that was one of the things that I was saying. And the funny thing in the tweet I sent, everybody focused on one phrase, which is kind of like, if you ever do actual debating, it's sort of like a bit of a straw man argument, or there's like these fallacies when it comes to arguing a point. And if you can not dissect what the person says, but if you harp in on one thing that you perceive to be a mistake, you try to like undercut the entirety of the argument. But the one thing people are missing out on, what people are focusing on is where I said like business is down. That was kind of a general statement. They really focused in on that aspect of it. What they kind of missed out on is the fact that like, and I didn't say this in the tweet, but like interest in the product is down. The Google Trends are down. The attendance has over the past few years been down. The hype around this company is not what it was. Domes have been down. Like we're not in a boom period, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I was kind of speculating on is like, how like at a certain point when WWE got to their base bottom where it was like they're not going to lose this 1 million fans no matter what on Mondays.
Mm-hmm.
And those people are just like, I fucking love Seth Rollins. What if the people that are like left over, like you're talking about like, oh, I'm surprised that there might be some people that would switch from this to that. It's like, what if that's not what this is? What if this is like the most Shinny Han freak of freaks and they're going to accept anything that the company puts in front of them, and that's what like, oh, the House of Torture, yay.
the Shinny Han Defense Squad.
Possibly. And again, it's kind of just a funny thing to say. I don't even know that that's necessarily the case, but I remember when that happened in WWE. Like it got to a point where the fan base dwindled from those fans that were looking. A lot of them went and just stopped watching wrestling. A lot of them went and watched New Japan. A lot of them became indie fans. A lot of them, most of them went and followed AEW. And then you're left with this hardcore base that just, we're seeing the tribalism now, how that whole thing is playing out between those two sides. Am I to expect that this company is exempt from that when the interest is down, that there might be a more galvanized hardcore base? I think that's a logical thought to have.
Yeah, I think so. Well, let's start talking about these New Japan Cup shows, we'll kind of run through the undercard. If anything story-wise happens, I'll try to point it out.
I didn't watch those tag matches. I did watch the singles matches, but I didn't watch those tag matches. So if there were any like angles or something, you're gonna have to catch me up to speed. I have been trying to watch the post-match shows. I watched all the tournament matches and all the singles matches, but I don't need to see Hanma lose 8 nights in a row. Like, it's not necessary.
All right, so we are picking up from night 6, which was March 12th. Showing up, we had Ishii, Yano, and Yoshihashi defeating Katsuya Murashima, Bolton Oleg, and Tomioka Hanma, 8 minutes and 6 seconds. Following that, we had Catch 2-2, Francisco Akira and TJP, defeating El Desperado and Ryusuke Taguchi. So they did kind of tease here that Catch 2-2 is getting warmed up and getting back in the ranks for a junior tag title shot, and also kind of getting ready for Best of Super Juniors. Also, Taguchi, for a lot of these shows, was wearing Young Lion gear, and I think the whole story was he's trying to get in shape for Best of Super Juniors. So that was going on.
Taguchi?
Yeah. He had the black. He had the black trunks on, the black knee pads, and apparently that was his way of like getting ready for Super Juniors.
Hilarious.
Then we had
Did he pull those down?
No.
Oh, thank God.
At least not that I saw when I was paying attention. Then we had Just Five Guys, Sanada, Taichi, and Yuya Uemura. They defeated Callum Newman, Great Okan, and Jeff Cobb. So, story they're kind of telling here with Yuya Uemura is he's been picking up a lot of wins on this tour. So he hit the deadbolt on Newman to get the win here. And as we talk about other undercard stuff, with multi-man stuff, Uemura is the one that's getting the pins and submission wins in these multi-man tags. So then following that, we had the TMDK team of Mikey Nichols and Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Bushi and Yota Tsuji. Then we had the House of Torture, Evil, Jack Perry, Ren Narita, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Yujiro Takahashi defeating the team of ELP, Hikuleo, Shota Umino, Togi Makabe, and Yo. So kind of continuing the Umino and Jack Perry story, which I'm guessing is going to play out at Windy City Riot. Then we had the Bullet Club team of Gabe Kidd, Kenta, and Taiji Ishimori defeating the LIJ team of Hiromu, Shingo, and Tetsuya Naito. Ishimori got the pin on Hiromu here. So Ishimori's another guy that's been picking up wins in these undercard tags. So probably a guy that's going to be pushed when it comes to Best of Super Juniors this year. And then that brings us to the second round matches on this evening. Semi-final, we had David Finlay defeating Tangaloa, 16 minutes and 42 seconds.
Yeah, this match matched. It was the most match that ever matched.
Tangaloa has been getting a lot of flack on social media for some of the botches in his matches, and there was that we talked about it last week, that one Kamigoye that he did that got ratioed so bad on X that New Japan took the gift down from their own account. This match he had a very poorly mistimed Tiger Feint Kick 619 that didn't end up looking too well, and a couple other botch spots here, and
he fucking went back. So this man does he goes for the 619. And fucking like racks himself on the ropes, so he's on half on the inside, half on the outside. Like, it was so bad. My girlfriend was there, and I was like, "Wait, you gotta watch this." I rewound it, and she's like, "Oh my God!" So then he body slams Finlay, and he does it again.
Yeah.
This time he still barely cleared the fucking ropes.
Oh man, I'm all.
It was like he saw the gifts of himself doing the worst Kamigoye ever, and he said, "Hold my beer," and then he had to outdo himself.
Yeah, I'm all for big guys doing cool moves, but if you can't do them, don't do them.
See, I could do that shit.
I believe you'd probably do it better than Tangaloa.
No. No, I wouldn't.
So towards the end here, Finlay hits the into Oblivion and gets the win here over Tangaloa. So
Yeah.
Then
So the Tangaloa hype train was derailed.
yeah. Following that, we had Hirooki Goto defeating Chase Owens in 21 minutes and 36 seconds.
Remember how much we praised Chase Owens versus Ishii?
Yeah.
It's amazing how he's in there with somebody that can wrestle the same similar style to Ishii, and it just did not deliver in any way, shape, or capacity close to that. Like, in fact, this was almost to me like somewhat actively bad. I don't know, man. Like, another thing too is like Chase Owens, bro. Like the hairline, the fucking gut in the main event of I feel bad for the people of Uwajima City. They had to put down their hard-earned yen to watch this show with this shit. And the most memorable thing was a botched 619. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, this match was not great at all.
In hindsight, the Hirooki Goto win here was probably a big deal. But at the time I was watching it, I was like, why the fuck are Goto and Chase Owens in the main event fighting over the tag title? Like, is this the best we could do for New Japan Cup? Like, this is not it.
Not it, yeah. So yeah, with Goto getting the winner, hits the GTR. So at this point, Yoshihashi beat Kenta, Goto beats Chase, kind of like we talked about. So clearly they're setting up a IWGP tag title match, Bishamon versus Kenta and Chase. Not sure when that will happen, whether it be the finals or Secure Genesis, but that's clearly on deck. Then following that, we go to March 13th. Show opened up with Great Okan and Jeff Cobb defeating Tomioka Hanma and Toru Yano. Nothing really special there. Then we had Hirooki Goto, Ishii, and Yoshihashi defeating Callum Newman and Catch 2-2. So once again, Catch 2-2 kind of teaming up here. So it seems like they're trying to get them kind of back in tag rankings. Then we had House of Torture, Jack Perry, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru defeating Taguchi and Shota Umino. So again, continuing the Jack Perry Umino story. Then we had Just Five Guys, Doki, Sonata Taichi, and Yuya Uemura defeating the Bullet Club team of Chase, Dave Finlay, Gato, and Kenta. And once again, Uemura, I think he picked up the win in this match as well. For the team there. Then we had TMDK, Nichols, and Sabre defeating Ren Narita and Yujiro Takahashi. And the last tag match was Bushi, Hiromu, Naito, and Tsuji defeating the team of ELP, Tangaloa, Desperado, and Togi Makabe, which brought us to the tournament matches. A semi-main event, Evil defeating Hikuleo, 14 minutes and 32 seconds.
Yeah. Evil versus Hikuleo was something.
Yeah.
Like these first few nights after the tournament picks up over, I guess the next match is probably where it starts to pick up a little bit, but down the tail end of this week of shows is where it picked up. The first few nights, like I had been forewarned by a friend of the show where they were like, don't like, they're like, this is a very positive person. And they were like, bro, this tournament fucking sucks. And I was like, that's like, I haven't watched them yet. And they're like, don't bother. Like, just imagine what these matches probably look like. And they're exactly what you would imagine they are. Just read the results and move on with your life. And I was like, I can't do that. I got an obligation to the public. But yeah, I watched the match. 14 minutes, 32 seconds. The big story here was Evil attacking Hikuleo's leg. Hikuleo doing a pretty good job selling it, being the valiant babyface. But down the stretch, after all the cheating, the difference maker was Hikuleo not only having one wheel, which opened him up for the Everything is Evil. It really was just, I guess, a fine match that was marred by the overuse of cheating. Again, which is the House of Torture MO.
Yeah, towards the end, Hikuleo hit the TKO, but then the bell rang and the ref stopped counting, and that led into House of Torture coming in. Renderita came in, hitting a flying knee, and then ELP came in and tried to even things up. He cleared the ring of Jack Perry, did a big moonsault out to all the House of Torture guys, but then Evil was able to hit a chop block on the bad leg you mentioned, hits the Everything is Evil, 1, 2, 3, Evil wins and advances. Then from there, the main event, we had the Dragon Shingo Takagi defeating War Ready Gabe Kidd, 18 minutes and 20 seconds, and we finally got a nice little gem here amongst all the crap that has been this tournament so far.
At the risk of sounding negative on the show, if the first 40 minutes weren't too negative for everybody, I wasn't in love with this match, Jeremy.
So it was not as good as Gabe Kidd Hanare. It wasn't as good as Gabe and Ishii. It was a very good match. I think that I expected better, but based on what we've had, I was happy with what we got.
Oh man, that's like the Eddie. It's like the Eddie Murphy skit. It's like, God damn, this is some of the best crackers I ever fucking had. So is that Ritz? Is that Ritz? Regular old crackers. Oh my god, that's not the first time I've mentioned that skit on this show. It's also not the first time it's been mentioned on this network. James Boyd was bringing that skit up on One Nation Radio just the other week. But
yeah,
that's where we've gotten to. We went from having filet mignon to just some regular crackers. You're like, could be worse.
Yeah.
The match was fine. I mean, a lot of heat in terms of like as soon as the match started, or even before it started. These guys were brawling all over the building and on the outside. And then as soon as the match started, it went back to that. And a good portion of the match was spent on the outside with these guys brawling. And that's fine. I'm not even necessarily opposed to it. I just felt like compared to a lot of the top, like, it's funny. The way that they wrestled this match is the way I think that a lot of the people that don't like Gabe Kidd pretend like all his matches are.
Right.
They act like it's like this overdone sort of walk and brawl, kind of gimmicky thing, and it normally isn't. It's actually usually very riveting, and like I'm wondering if him hurting Hanare supposedly in that. Well, I mean, I guess he did, and maybe he got heat for that because he's the one that threw the table and it fucking lacerated the dude. And since then, things have kind of toned down a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm wondering if that, plus that time when he almost threw, I don't remember who it was, but last week he almost threw somebody into an old lady. I'm wondering if like these kind of instances are getting heat and they've told him to tone it down, and maybe that's what's going on here. But, the match was fine. It picked up. I saw some really high scores online, which I'm just like, that's what boggled my mind, because him and Callum Newman got terrible scores. That was an incredible match. And then this match I thought was just fine, and it got great scores. And I'm like, I've lost the script or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, I think a lot of times it's just the cachet with the names. Like, it's Shingo. Everybody loves Shingo. I love Shingo, but because it's Shingo, it's like, oh, it has to be good. So, and I want to sound
really great.
I want to sound right. It's Shingo, so I want to sound smart, and I'm going to give it a high rating. But Callum Newman, somebody I don't know, that's like young United Empire young boy. I was gonna say it's a bad match.
I thought that match killed this match, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought that match was better. Like this, like towards the end, and this match picked up and got really good. But yeah, there was a lot of brawling here, a lot of heat. It just wasn't the typical. It wasn't the typical Gabe Kidd match. And it wasn't the typical Shingo match, and so clearly they were given some instructions of what they were trying to do here, but it kind of derivated from what you would expect from a matchup with these two guys.
Before we move on, because the next thing we know, Shingo moves on, so we can get to the next card here in a second. You guys went out on a double date the other night. How come you never invite me on one of your double. What's the deal with that?
I don't know.
You need to figure that out.
So moving on to the next card, March.
I'm joking.
March 15th, we had Young Lion singles action here. Katsuya Morishima versus Shoma Kato, and they went to a 10-minute time limit draw.
Quick thoughts. These guys have greatly improved from what we were seeing from them when they first debuted as Young Lions in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I thought they looked really good here. Yeah, way better from their debuts, which typically normally happens with Young Lions. They progress really fastly, being in the dojo and working these multi-man tags. They looked really good here.
I was impressed for the first time ever. And granted, I'm not saying they haven't been doing well on the tags. I didn't watch those on this tour, so I couldn't tell you. Jeremy, you'd probably know, but this was the first time I've seen them have a singles match in quite a while. And I was like, damn, they've gotten really, really good. And even just the match structure has improved. The work itself has improved. So everything about their presentations got better.
Yeah, so at the time limit draw, Morishima was the one who had the Boston Crab on Shoma Kato. So clearly that's all the story they tell of which guy had the advantage at the end of the draw. So we'll see what happens the next time they face off in singles action.
Morishima kind of reminds me of Ogawa a little bit, the way he looks. I don't know.
I can see that. Following that, we had Mad Mikey Nichols defeating the Prince of Pace, Callum Newman, 6 minutes and 18 seconds.
I don't know. Do I say that they didn't get as much time as the Young Lions, therefore their match, wasn't as worthy? Or do I say Mikey Nichols is a badass putting Callum Newman away in 6 minutes? I don't know. One or the other. But, the match was fine. I didn't see anything that was too much of a talking point here, but I thought Nichols gave a lot to Newman and then put him away clean.
Yeah, from this matchup forward, they kind of started telling a story between TMDK and United Empire. Not quite sure where they're going to go from there. Maybe they're going to do kind of a faction feud coming up next. But yeah, Callum Newman was in a lot of multi-mans with Nichols and Sabre. But yeah, so kind of a fun matchup here. Following that, we had Doki, Sanada, Taichi, and Yuya Uemura defeating Makabe, Hanma, Desperado, and Bolton Oleg. And Yuya here, once again, he hits the deadbolt suplex on Hanma to get the win. So again, Uemura is racking up wins in the undercards on this tour. Then following that, we had Bullet Club team Chase Owens, Finley, Gabe Kidd, Kenta, and Taiji Ishimori. They defeated Goto, Ishii, Yano, Yoshihashi, and Taguchi. Then we had Hikuleo Jado and Tangaloa teaming up with Shota Umino and Yo to defeat Dick Togo, Evil, Jack Perry, Kanemaru, and Yujiro Takahashi. And some point in this tour, they announced a singles match will be happening between Yo and Kanemaru at the New Japan Cup Finals. So they've been kind of continuing the story of Yo stealing stuff, and he has a junior title, and at some point in this tour, he steals the whiskey bottle from Kanemaru. And so they're going to do that kind of de facto singles match where, because Sho is still saying he's, injured from the Naito match. So essentially, Yo is going to have to beat Kanemaru to actually get a title match.
Yeah, when I saw that announcement, I was like, thank God. Something I wanted to see more than a House of Torture junior member fight Yo. And they delivered, so good on them.
And guess what? You're going to get it again when Yo beats Kanemaru, and it's Yo versus Sho. Oh, man.
I'm not going to predict anything because if New Japan Cup has taught me anything, I'm not as good at predicting as I thought I was, because took a look at those rankings for Chris Samsa's contest, and I'm like 225. That's horrible.
Yeah,
this is probably the worst I've ever done on the New Japan Cup.
I entered 3 brackets and I still didn't end up anywhere near the top. So following that, we had Hikuleo, Jado, Tangaloa, and I talked about that one already. So then we had United Empire, Akira, Great Khan, Jeff Cobb, and TJP that defeated Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo, and Naito. And it seems like Cobb is trying to angle get into the Never title picture and also kind of angling for rivalry with Shingo. Saw some comments there, so maybe there's something coming down the line between Cobb and Shingo. Then the semi-main event, we had Yota Tsuji defeating ELP El Phantasmo 21 minutes and 56 seconds.
Have you ever seen the episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when Frank Reynolds, Danny DeVito's character, pretends to be an art critic?
No, I've never watched that show at all.
Oh, maybe you shouldn't. It's pretty sacrilegious. It's kind of bad, but there's an episode where he pretends to be like an art critic, and he's walking through a fucking art gallery, and he's like, bullshit, derivative, total horseshit. And then he comes up on what's literally just an air purifier, and he's like, This I love. I must have it. How much is that? That's how I feel about this match and this tournament, where I'm like, bullshit. Oh, Tsuji versus ELP. Finally, something delivers on an actual level to where I'm like, this was wrestling. This was fucking great. And when you piggyback this performance from, and granted, it's not all Tsuji. ELP was every bit. It's funny. He's a guy that, like, I think ELP is a little selective. I don't want to say he doesn't work hard every night, because he does, but he is a little bit selective of when he decides to go all out. You know,
right? I think sometimes he when he was heel, he definitely leaned in a lot to like the comedy, sometimes, and even now with Hikuleo, even sometimes in those multi-mans, he kind of leads into that kind of goofy, I'm not gonna go full out, but yeah, here he definitely did.
But when they put him in a big main event or a big singles match, like, he can really deliver, and this was another one of those examples. But Tsuji, man, in this tournament so far, you look at this match, you couple it, piggyback it off that Jeff Cobb performance, like, right now already at this point in the tournament, he's the MVP.
Yeah, MVP of the tournament is probably going to end up being the March Wrestler of the Month. Yeah, Cobb match was great. This match was awesome. Towards the end, ELP hits super kick for a near fall. They trade roll-ups. Yota hits a super kick and Falcon Arrow for a near fall. He goes for the Gene Blast, but ELP blocked it and turned it into a CR2.
I've been there.
Yeah, that was a great near fall. I thought that, I was like, I can't believe ELP is going to win this.
You missed what I said there.
What'd you say?
You said he went for a Gene Blast and ELP denied it, turned it into a CR2. I was like, I've been there.
Yeah, then they started trading strikes there from the knees, and then they go to the feet. ELP hits an Inzi, Yota hits a big headbutt and knee strike, curb stomp, and then he hits the top rope flying stomp for the win. So using something besides the Gene Blast spear to get a win over ELP here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I felt like, you know, when you're playing like a wrestling video game, how there's multiple finishers and some of them are like situational.
Right, yeah.
That's kind of what Tsuji's like. Like, if they're standing dazed in the middle of the ring, that's when he can use like the Gene Blast. But like, if he's in the corner and they're dazed on the ground, that's where he can like hit the special button and like climb up to the, you know, it's actually a double ring jump. He like jumps up to the second rope, then the top rope, then comes down with the drop kick to the top of the head.
Yeah. So that was awesome. Don't know what he calls that, but kind of cool getting a secondary finish here. And yeah, beating one half of the strong openweight tag team champion. So he advances on in the tournament.
Yeah, I thought this match was really exceptional. And, you know, one I would say, if you haven't seen it, go out of your way. Very highly recommended. Yeah. And I mean, just look at the names. ELP and Tsuji, like, that sounds fucking awesome. And it was.
Yeah. Then the main event of the evening, we had Ren Narita defeating Zack Sabre Jr. 23 minutes and 8 seconds.
Now, this was a match, Jeremy, where you would think, considering the outcome, considering the methodology that it was carried out, and considering the name involved, that I wouldn't like this match, and you'd be mistaken, because I was thoroughly impressed with Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ren Narita. And, you know, I think part of the story wasn't Zack telling was Zach telling Narita to bring no. That was Taichi. Never mind.
Zach did an interview and he was kind of talking about he's glad that Narita's in How the Torture and he's not a Shibata clone and he kind of accepted what he was or something like that.
Right. So, the match itself, there was definitely some cheating and there was definitely interference and things of that nature, but a lot of this was wrestled, and it was wrestled really well. And when you kind of think about Narita's recent big matches, you couple this with his Cork and Hall match with Umino on last month's tour. Yes, he definitely leans into the shtick, and yes, he's playing the character and all that, but like the Shibata clone still lives. He's in there somewhere and he comes out from time to time, and that's more than you can say of Watanabe, and that's more than you can say of Sho. Two guys that are capable of doing something like that. They never do it, but the way people talked about Sho at the anniversary where they were like, oh, the old Sho came out. Nah, that's not true, but you did get a little bit of that with Narita. Still within the framework of his new character. And, these two guys had already had that match at Wrestle Kingdom last year's Wrestle Kingdom, and Narita was in the middle of a tear, and he lost the finals of the World Television title tournament to Zach, and we've been waiting for this rematch. It finally happens. Completely different characters at this point. And even though Narita does cheat and does take some shortcuts, it's still not enough to beat Zach. Like, Zach is still proving that he is beyond where Narita is. However, down the stretch, there's still interference from House of Torture. There's still a moment where the referee gets distracted. Opportunity presents itself. It looks like Zach's going to overcome the House of Torture. It looks like Mikey Nichols has done him a solid, and he's, going to thwart their best efforts as he's done many times in the past. And unfortunately, that's not to beat. Narita is able to get the push-up bar, decks him, gets the 1, 2, 3. And what I liked about this was, like, yes, it was cheating. But if you know anything about my fandom, I watch a lot of 80s and 90s wrestling where this sort of stuff is acceptable. The quality of the match wasn't sacrificed in the name of Russoism over indulgence. They still had an incredible match. They had an incredible story told. And at the end, the bad guy who was unable to match the skills and prowess of Zack Sabre Jr. needed to dig deep and go and bend the rules and then break them in order to pick up that victory. It's a tale old as time. And for all the quote unquote storytelling that I hear that this group tells, this is one of the best House of Torture style matches that I've seen. I don't know, maybe ever, man. Maybe ever. Like,
yeah, this was really good. It's one of Narita's best matches in quite some time, and it was more in line of that what we were talking about earlier, that kind of Bull Club style of, all right, you have AJ Styles in there, he's going to have a good matchup, but there's going to be some cheating. And that's kind of what the structure was here. Beginning of the match, Red Shoe sent Nichols to the back, he sent House of Torture to the back, and they kind of had a more traditional wrestling match towards the beginning of the match. It was all about, all right, who's the better technical wrestler here? Because, even though Narita has a Torture now, like you mentioned, that Shibata LA Dojo influence is still in him, and there's still something he has to prove with beating Zach. And so you got a lot of that old Son of Strong style in Narita with doing the octopus holes and trying to exchange strikes with Zach. And yeah, it was really good. And towards the end, you had the heat and House of Torture coming back out, Nichols coming back out. But at least up to that point, you had a really good matchup. It was very entertaining, and I thought the cheating was done better than in the previous other matches that we've seen in this tournament. And you got a nice surprise upset win for Ren Narita.
I agree.
And we have some questions here. Discord Daddy says, Narita's match with Zach was good. I think this is a mere ideal formula for the House of Torture issue. Thoughts?
I agree. I mean, I'm a bigger fan personally of old school style heels. You know, one of my favorite wrestlers is Ric Flair. This was not that far off from what you would see in a Ric Flair match where he wins, and it's always not clean. You know what I mean? Like he cheats at the end, but the match itself is great.
Right.
I don't know where we lost the whole thing where wrestlers that cheat have to have shitty matches.
Right. Yeah, I don't get why that. Like, why is the Heat? Yeah, they suck. They have bad matches. Like that should not be the Heat.
Right. And I mean, sure, like, you know, you look back at Ric Flair, yes. What did he get cheers in, you know, North Carolina or, you know, in Charlotte? Sure. But he got booed everywhere. He made a lot of money, a lot more money than most of the quote unquote, you know, bad heels that people, you know, you look at someone that people hate like a Bully Ray, and it's like, I'd rather have the career of a Ric Flair than a Bully Ray.
Next question here, Les Commission 7252 says, dude, it makes no sense how Red Shoes, a veteran ref who disqualifies a heel team from unnecessary interference, allows the House of Torture to run right past him and stop Mikey Nichols, who's only one guy. It shows the refs are brain dead. This has to be more than X-Pac Heat at this point. This is Jeff Jarrett, TNA, overbooking for a faction who is not over for what a heel team should look like. The only nuclear heat they're getting at this point is the poor booking of Goto.
Yeah, I mean, that's very strongly worded. And again, I'm not going to assume what the domestic fan base feels, but it's just from looking at the you know, performance of the company, and then also looking at what I'm seeing on screen and what I'm hearing through the television set. This isn't some sort of like major angle that's drawing a lot of money. And if it had been, I don't know. We're in like year 4, year 5 of this shit. Did it ever? And if this is the turning point, I mean, is this their Sami Zayn moment where they finally, you know, start to pick up the steam? Like, it doesn't feel like it. I don't know. Am I crazy? Like,
apparently we both are, because I don't get it. So moving on to the next show, March 16th, night 9. Top of this show, we got the announcement that David Finlay had a medical situation, had to go to the emergency room, got to go to the hospital, and would be forfeiting his match, being pulled from the tournament, which gave Hirooki Goto a bye, an automatic win into the next round.
Yeah, unfortunate for David Finlay, but very fortunate for Hirooki Goto, because at this point he got a bye in the first round. Then his second round was David Finlay, or I'm sorry, not
Chase Owens.
Chase Owens, and then he avoided doing the JOB to David Finlay and skates right into the semifinals on just one match. I mean, this is like Savio Vega in the 1995 King of the Ring. This is incredible.
We had a question here from Barry Walsh. Says, do you think Finlay being injured could be a work and plans change to have Goto go to the finals or win, and not having Finlay lose to him protects him for later? I just have a nagging feeling he is not really injured at all.
No, I really, 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 really doubt that, mainly for the fact that New Japan, from a promotional standpoint, I don't see how it would be beneficial for them to advertise the big match and then just not do it. Granted, they did lie to us about Kanemaru's status health-wise, but this doesn't feel like that.
Right, but at least that built to a turn. Like the work was he's turning on just 5 guys. What's the work here? Like, why would Finlay he's going so far in the tournament? Why would he just drop out of the tournament? Because he can't get back in. So what would be the work? What's the heat here?
Yeah, I mean, if hypothetically he's not quote unquote injured, then I have to imagine something else that's none of our business is going on. Either way, to me, it has to be something that was pretty valid for him to miss this booking and be unable to compete. And it's most likely that he's injured, like they're saying, or had some sort of health issue or whatever it may be. And, you know, we wish him the best.
Yeah. So the show opened up. We had Boltin Oleg, Shoma Kato, and Yo defeating Desperado, Katsuya Murashima, and Togi Makabe. Boltin Oleg hits that forward barrel roll on Katsuya to get the win. Then following that, we had Francisco Akira, Great Okan, and Jeff Cobb defeating Taguchi, Tangaloa, and Tomohiro Ishii. They are continuing to build up Great Okan and Tangaloa for a KOPW championship matchup. Then we had Nichols and Sabre defeating Callum Newman and TJP. So kind of continuing that little story of Callum Newman and Nichols from the previous night. Then we had the Bullet Club team of Chase Owens, Gabe Kidd, Kenta, and Ishimori defeating ELP, Hikuleo, Jado, and Toriano. Then we had the team of Taichi and Yuya Uemura defeating Shota Umino and Yoshihashi. And here, Uemura got the pinfall over Yoshihashi. So kind of a big win there for Uemura, kind of beating an established guy, getting the win. So again, Uemura just racking up the wins here. And we had a question from Death Triangle 720. Do you think New Japan are teasing a title match with Bishamon versus Yuya and Taichi?
I haven't seen the match, so I don't know, but fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly seems like, well, Bishamon, that they both in singles beat Chase and Kenta, so I think they're probably next, and so hopefully Bishamon beats Chase and Kenta, and then, yeah, you could line up Taichi and Uemura to be next for Bishamon, or, they like to do three-ways sometimes with the tag titles. You could do Chase and Kenta defending against Bishamon and Taichi and Uemura. So then following that, we had the LJ team Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo, Naito, and Tsuji defeating the House of Torture, Dictogo Evil, Narita, Kanemaru, and Yujiro Takahashi. And then the main event for the show, the quarterfinal matchup, Sonata defeats Jack Perry, 16 minutes and 2 seconds.
This was fine. I mean, from all the Jack Perry performances that we've had in New Japan, I would say this was the best. But I don't know that I was impressed by either himself or Sonata, really.
Yeah, it was fine. It seems like they're really trying to push more of quote unquote his character work here. Attacked. He grabbed the mic at the beginning of the match and kind of cut a promo on Sonata, and then attacked him with the mic, and then from there kind of brawled on the outside, and then the rest of it was just kind of fine. And then you kind of got the interference of all of the House of Torture guys, but then Just 5 Guys came to even the odds, and then Sonata was able to hit the deadfall on Jack Perry. He hit he did the O'Connor roll to kind of get the quick banana peel win over Jack Perry.
Yeah, which he's beaten people in that manner before, so I mean it's sort of like old school Sonata-ism. The match was fine. I mean, there were a couple moments where I was a little bit impressed with, the athleticism of Jack Perry, and I mean we know he can go, but I don't know, for a match that had the only real heat to me where I really enjoyed it was when Jack Perry basically said that he owed Sonata in the beginning and started whooping him with the fucking mic.
Yeah.
But other than that, the rest of the match was kind of, to me, I don't know, man. I hate to say it, but a little bit just average, kind of ho-hum.
Yeah. It was just kind of there.
Now, here's where we start getting into the conspiracy theories, and I could make myself look intelligent and tell you how I knew all this stuff was going to happen, but I was wrong a lot of, and in real time, I was anticipating that Jack Perry might win here. And here's what my reasoning had been. If you look at the left side brackets, most people projected David Finlay to go in over Goto. That would have put him in there at the top of the bracket, and he would have wound up fighting either Sonata or Jack Perry. And there's no way that they were going to put 2 Bullet Club guys, even if they're adjacent groups, in the final or in the semifinals against one another. So I figured it was probably going to be David Finlay versus Sonata in the final. Problem with that, David Finlay gets bounced and they put Goto in. And then I was like, well, if they're still telling this terrorism story, maybe having Jack Perry go in makes the most sense at that point. He would get the big win back over Sonata, who isn't winning the tournament anyways, in my estimation, and kind of avoids the whole Bullet Club versus Bullet Club thing. And then you could just have Jack Perry go in over Goto. They love an AEW guy to do well. I'm sure Tony Khan's going to be fine with him going to the finals. And they didn't do that. And instead they had Sonata go over. So I thought they were going to audible here. They didn't, which it probably wasn't audible. This probably was the plan all along. Mm-hmm. But then at that point I was like, oh, okay, with Sonata going through, and then we'll get to it here in a moment, he winds up, on the opposite end of a potential Tsuji match. I was like, oh, they're setting up Tsuji Sonata. That's why Jungle Boy didn't get his win back here. I did throw this theory out to Chris, and he was like, limited dates on Jungle Boy, only so matches they could do. So but he did keep working tag matches. So I don't know the parameters of that whole thing, but I was deep in the weeds of my conspiratorial self here, and I was wrong most of the time, but that's kind of where I was at this point in that evening.
Yeah. Question here from Les Commission 7252. So if you guys pay attention, commentary on night 9 up to the main event, it felt like there was too much humor between Walker and Gino. I might just be wrong and taking it the wrong way, but did you guys feel that at all?
I feel like Gino's kind of helping Walker kind of bring that out. And I mean, Gino's sort of playing the Bobby Heenan, Paul Heyman, Jesse the Body Ventura heel announcer shtick, and I think he's very good at it. So again, I didn't listen to most of the undercard because I didn't watch most of that stuff, so I couldn't tell you. But from what I've seen, I think they're a pretty good team, honestly.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. I mean, especially for a tournament that hasn't been great in this tour, like that. They have been one of the highlights of their commentary, and kind of that almost like that Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan kind of relationship, and kind of the quick comebacks and just kind of funny stuff happening by ringside. I mean, that's been entertaining for me in this tournament.
Yeah, I thought Walker was a little bit too straight-laced when he first started, and I know that he said publicly he's not so much with the ha-ha, which I do admire, but at the same time, there's some ha-ha in this company, so.
Yeah. Then we had a question here from Reddit user sad-goal8860. How long do you see Jack wrestling in New Japan? What do you see him accomplishing, and what's the overall net outcome for everyone involved?
I don't know, man. I haven't seen anything that led me to think like this is a guy that really stands at the forefront of being a main player in the House of Torture or even New Japan as a whole. I don't want to sound like a hater because I don't hate Jack Perry. I think he's a very talented wrestler, but going back to last year's Forbidden Door, I had some reservations about the idea of him being a top star. I don't see him as having that type of potential in this business. I think that there are some guys that can be top stars, and I think there's some guys that can be very exciting mid-card performers. And I think that's what Jack Perry is, in my personal opinion. And we've seen a lot of foreigners come to this company and just kill it. You know what I mean? I don't think Jack Perry's killed it. I don't think he's done anything where I'm like, oh, get him off my screen. He's awful. No, but there's nothing that's happened that has made me excited. That probably the most interesting aspect of his entire tenure here in New Japan are the backstage promos where he's alluding to insidery, anti-Fed sort of shit that plays into the CM Punk stuff and him maybe aligning with the Elite when he gets back to New Japan. Like, that's probably the best shit that he's done. Other than that, I mean, they got him running out there like he's Yujiro in most matches.
Yeah. And also clearly, like, part of that can't be blamed on him. Like, that's kind of the role he's got slotted in. That's the presentation that they're giving him. So from that,
never held back Gabe Kidd.
That's true.
Doesn't prevent Gabe Kidd from getting over. You got to get your shit in. Figure out how to stand out. This guy don't stand out, bro.
Yeah, he's honestly just like, just another goon in the group. And yeah,
I'm not saying the booking's great, but he's not standing out in any way.
Yeah, and I mean, clearly he's going to be. I mean, he's part of a faction, so I feel like he's going to be in New Japan for a while. Also, he has a date booked for Windy City Riot. Clearly, they're going to do some kind of blow off between him and Umino. Who knows? If he loses, maybe he gets booted from House of Torture and goes back to AEW, or maybe he's going to be here for the whole year. Maybe he still sticks in House of Torture the whole year. I'm not sure, but I mean, the net outcome for him is getting the experience working in Japan, working tours, and kind of getting that skill set. I mean, unfortunately, he's stuck in House of Torture. I guess he's quote unquote working on his character work and his promos and that heel style. So I guess maybe that's a benefit to him. I mean,
you mentioned being in a faction. We saw, like, I don't know if you remember, but Jay Lethal was LIJ.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
for a short period. Sometimes that sort of thing happens.
Right, and so yeah, I'm wondering if it's a thing where like he leaves and he's just still considered a member until something else happens.
They'll never say, I mean, the Briscoe brothers were chaos until they just weren't.
Right. All right, that takes us to yesterday's show, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. So show opened up. We had Katsuya Murashima and Bolton Oleg defeating Taguchi and Chomaketo. So once again, Bolton Oleg getting the win with his big barrel roll move there. Then following that, we had ELP, Hikuleo, and Tangaloa defeating the United Empire team of Catch 2-2 and Great Okan. Again, continuing to build up the Tangaloa-Okan matchup. Then we had Nichols and Hickles and Sabre defeating Callum Newman and Jeff Cobb, continuing the Callum Newman-Nichols story there. Then we had Desperado, Shota Umino, and Yo defeating Jack Perry, Kanemaru, and Nitro. So building up the Yo and Kanemaru match and the Shota and Jack Perry match. Then we had Goto, Ishii, Yano, and Yoshihashi teaming up with a returning Tenzan. And they defeated the Bullet Club team of Chase, Gabe Kidd, Gato, Kenta, and Taiji Ishimori. Then the last undercard tag match, we had Sanada, Taichi, and Nya Uemura defeating the LIJ team of Bushi, Hiromu, and Tetsuya Naito. And that brought us into the quarterfinal matchups. So for this evening, semi-main event, we had the Gene Blast, Yota Tsuji defeating Ren Narita, 18 minutes and 8 seconds.
Not quite as good as the other Tsuji matches in this tournament.
Yeah, they did not follow the Zack Sabre formula.
Not quite as good as some of the other Ren Narita matches in this tournament either.
Yeah. So yeah, match was fine. There was also a ton of cheating, and Narita attacked Tsuji from the get-go, and they were brawling all over the arena. Plenty of ref bump interference. House of Torture came in, but LIJ came out to make the save. Narita hit a low blow, goes for the double cross spike, but then Tsuji turned it into a forward roll and got the pin over Narita.
And this turned into a Paul Heyman special.
Yeah, so Evil ran to the ringside. He attacked Tsuji. Then Shingo ran out. So yeah, it led to the Heyman special, which has led into Evil versus Shingo. And Evil defeated Shingo 17 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yeah, it was giving me PTSD from this past year's G1. I'm like, not again. Not like this.
Yeah. And again, this wasn't anything special. All the guys were still out there. There's still a bunch of cheating. Bushi tried to help out and spray the mist, but he accidentally sprayed it in Shingo's eyes. And then
I kind of actually loved that.
Then they threw powder in his eyes, and then Kanemaru spit the whiskey in his eyes, and then Evil hit the everything is evil. 1, 2, 3, Evil advances.
Yeah, Tsuji hit the Gene Blast inadvertently. Oh! No, I'm just playing. But yeah, Evil picked up the win here, and it was like, more terrorism, great. You know, we went from the prospects of potentially having Yota, Tsuji, and Shingo in an interfactional, match. We've seen so many times throughout this tour where Tsuji, Shingo, and Naito are all standing in the ring, facing off, sharing words, and there's clearly a tension there. And it's almost a little bit too heavy-handed to where you're like, they're teasing this a lot. They might just pull the rug out from underneath us. And you kind of know Evil's there for the taking, but it would have been so nice to if at the end of the tunnel, the shining light had been Shingo and Tsuji, and instead we ended up with Evil and Tsuji, which is not as good if you didn't know.
Yeah. So that takes us to night 11, which was today's show, March 18th, from the Big Palette Fukushima. Show opened up, we had TMDK, Nichols, and Sabre defeating Boltin Oleg and Chilma Kato. I didn't hear the comments about Oleg going on excursion. We did have a question here from Rainbow Slaying Pig. It says, will Boltin be on excursion before Dominion or what?
Yeah, I'm going to look. I thought I saw something about him potentially going on an excursion, which to me seemed a little early, in the process. But I know they've talked about wanting to speed things up and that sort of thing. But maybe I misheard that. But to me, it's a tough call because he's not necessarily the youngest guy on the roster. But at the same time, he, to me, kind of needs a bit more seasoning than some of the other young lions. He has a lot going for him, and he's very good in certain respects. But I still think that there's foundational things that he just doesn't completely have yet. He's not a fully well-rounded, basic wrestler.
Yeah, in that Sabre interview, Sabre mentioned, once he puts it all together, like he's going to be scary good. So yeah, I think he just needs, more kind of seasoning, and it could get to a point where you could, I guess, kind of push him as a monster, hide his weaknesses, and kind of roll over people. But that's not really normally what works in New Japan kind of main event scene. So I think keep him in the dojo for a little bit longer, and then send him somewhere where he can get some more reps for excursion and come back a little bit more seasoned.
Yeah, I agree.
So then, following that, we had Doki, Taichi, and Yuya Uemura, and they defeated Desperado, Togi Makabe, and Tomohiro Ishii. So Uemura hits a cross arm breaker and taps out Makabe, taps out a former IWGP heavyweight champion. So once again, Uemura just picking up wins left and right over kind of established older talent. Then following that, we had Taguchi and Tangaloa defeating Callum Newman and Great Okan. Post-match, Tangaloa got on the mic and officially challenged Great Okan for the KOPW championship.
Which makes sense. And we kind of called that is probably what's going to happen. And here it is.
Mm-hmm. Then
I wonder what the stipulation is.
Who knows? A
619 match.
Kamagoye.
You can only win with either a Kamagoye or a 619. You should have those moves banned in the match. Like, I've seen how devastating those two moves are. So you will not be allowed to use the Kamagoye. You will not be able to do a Tiger Feint kick. Like, no, not going to happen.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. Following that, we have Bull Club, Chase Owens, Gabe Kidd, and Kenta defeating Yano, Yoshihashi, and Tenzan. Beginning of this match, Chase has his whole gunshot sound effect with the entrance. Kenta tried doing it It didn't work. Then Chase gave him another finger gun. He pointed at Yoshihashi, and they did laser sound effects. So he did like a laser gun to Yoshihashi. But yeah, heels win here. They're still kind of teasing a potential Bishamon versus Kenta and Chase Owens. And post match, Chase was saying anytime you want Yoshihashi. So they're clearly building to that matchup. Then following that, we had ELP, Hikuleo, Umino, and Yo defeating the House of Torture team of Jack Perry, Narita, Kanemaru, and Yujiro. And I believe this was the match, post-match, where Yo steals the whiskey bottle from Kanemaru and steals the belt back from Kanemaru, so continuing to build up for that singles match. Then following that, we had Bushi, Hiromu, and Naito defeating Catch 2-2 and Jeff Cobb, which then leads us into the two tournament matchups from this evening semifinal matchups. First, we had Evil versus Yota Tsuji, which went to a no contest at first after a minute and 30 seconds. Tsuji did a big tope to Evil, and then all the teams came out were brawling, and they threw the match out, but then eventually they had everybody go to the back. All the refs came out, and they restarted the matchup. And Yota Tsuji got the win, beating Evil 16 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this structure many times before where on a tour, House of Torture, they're a terror. People are getting sick of watching them, and then the big comeuppance is one of these baby faces, whether it's Naito or Hiromu or Zack Sabre Jr. or most recently it was Sonata and Okada last year, and now it's Yota Tsuji, where the same methods that have been working for them the entire tour are employed, but the babyface has backup and they're prepared for it, and they overcome the odds and pick up the unexpected victory just at the point of defeat in a very high profile tournament spot or a title match. And that's kind of what this was here. I thought Tsuji did well in that spot, and there were some good near falls, but I personally, it was definitely, again, cathartic to see him get the big win. And if it's good for his overall career and it propels him, great. But for my personal fan perspective, like we've seen it done a little bit better in the past. And I would have rather seen him in Shingo. So I didn't think Evil was winning. Like at no point me as a fan, I wasn't thinking like, okay, we have a real shot of Evil going through here. Like I would have been shocked by that. So
yeah,
it didn't get me as much.
Yeah, I think people forget that Evil is still the never champion. Had he not been never champion, I think the door would have been more open for him to upset and go to the finals, but he's still an never champion, and so I was not expecting him to win here, but it was still a great relief with him losing. So yeah, end of the matchup here. Tsuji accidentally hits the ref with a double stomp. Then, of course, how the Torture comes out, and then LJ comes out except Naito, because Naito wanted to remain impartial in deciding what happens in this tournament. Then eventually Shingo comes out and makes the save, hits double clothesline, and clears the ring. Bushi sprays the mist in Evil's eyes, and then the ref came to the ring. Tsuji hits the Gene Blast, 1, 2, 3. Big pop. That's one thing I gotta say, man. Tsuji is really over. Every night, the crowds were really into him, and he got great reactions in this match. He got a big pop. Him, Gene Blast, getting the win. So yeah, great stuff here for Tsuji. Question from Rainbow and Slam Pig: do you think they could find a way to get a little more House of Torture stuff into the shows? I'm worried that they aren't getting enough spotlight.
Great question.
Navef says, can Finley give that illness to House of Torture? Like all of them at once, please. Staleburger Bun says, were the House of Torture shenanigans throughout the cup worth it for Tsuji's big babyface moment / win?
I would say no, personally, and that echoes what I said at the start of the show. I just don't think that sacrificing the quality of the tournament. I don't think it's a better business strategy. I don't think it's a better creative direction, and I don't think it's worth it in the long run.
Yeah, again, I don't think I agree with you. I wouldn't sacrifice the whole tournament. Like, I think you could have had the Tsuji wrestle a bunch of cool matches, and then maybe you have his last one's evil, and then that's the kind of triumph. But to have all this stuff throughout the whole tournament, and then he has to face Narita, and then also evil, I think you could have done with just him vanquishing one of those guys. Let's see here. So moving on to the main event of the evening, we had Hirooki Goto defeating Sanada 19 minutes and 5 seconds.
A little shocked here, to be honest with you. Not in a negative way, mind you, because Goto is Mr. March. He is the guy that has won this tournament and finaled more times than, well, I don't know if he's finaled more times than anybody else, but he's won the tournament more times than anybody else. And it's been quite a few years since he's made it to the finals or won. And one of the stories that and it's not even just stories, it's real life bleeding into the story that they're incorporating, is that, Hirooki Goto's father recently passed, and he's dedicated this tournament to his father's memory. So kind of reinvigorated. I did notice, how some guys get into better shape for a big run? Mm-hmm. Goto tends to, he's done that before, but Goto tends to get the good haircut when he's going on a run.
Yeah, he was freshly faded up.
Yeah, he's freshly faded up, and he's got the good mullet, not the lazy mullet, but the good one. And I was like, oh, that's a little interesting. But I thought that him and Sanada had Sanada's best match of the tournament. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to oversell it and be like, this was an incredible main event. I'd probably go like 3 3/4, but I thought it was very good. I thought they both worked really hard and had good chemistry with one another. I liked the spot early on where Sanada took Goto to the outside and gave him a pile driver on the floor. They teased the near fall for the count out. And then down the stretch, they went into a really great close where Sanada was hitting all of his big moves. I mean, he had the skull end. He got multiple
Shining Wizard.
He got the Muda moonsault. I mean, he was hitting all of his biggest stuff, and the only thing he was failing to hit was the deadfall. I think New Japan wrestlers failed to realize that when you incorporate a new finisher, that your old finishers lose effectiveness and they become signatures. You can't beat people as readily with them. But Sanada pretty much hit Goto with almost everything, and Goto just kept kicking out. And then not only that, Sanada started doing the wacky roll-ups. Like, he got desperate, started doing those, and the Okana roll and the back spring and blah, blah, blah. And he could not put Goto away. And then Goto hit a GTW, got a near fall, hit the GTR, put him away. What was his old move called? Was it the Shouten Kai?
Shouten Kai, yeah.
For some reason, like, I was spoiled on this going into it. So, I wasn't, like, I was shocked when I found out that he won, but then I watched the match spoiled. But I kind of thought he was going to hit the Shouten Kai. I was like, oh, please hit that. That would be so sick. He didn't do that, but he hit him with the 2 big moves and put him out. I was pretty impressed, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't want to oversell it. I would probably see if people weren't as high on it as me, but I thought they had a really good main event. Oh, and the other thing that worked for me is how bad the crowd wanted Goto to win this match.
Yeah, that was the next point I was going to bring up was, a lot of times in the main event before the show, they kind of see who is the crowd behind, and the crowd was definitely like 60-40 in Hirooki Goto's favor. He got the bigger reactions from the beginning of the match, and then throughout the match, the crowd was kind of with him the whole time, and it seemed like they really wanted him to get the win. And I don't know how public it's been made to the fans about Goto's dad dying, but they were really behind him, and maybe they're just kind of tired of the Sonata main event push, but they were behind Goto, wanted to see him win, and there was a nice pop when he hit the GTR and got the win. So post match, he's cutting his promo, gets a little confrontation from Yota Tsuji, and that is our 2024 New Japan Cup Finals. It'll be Hirooki Goto versus the Gene Blast Yota Tsuji. So that should be pretty good stuff there, and yeah, good matchup to close that show. We had a question here from Cozy Dr. Lariat. Says, is the Goto revolution happening finally, or does New Japan finally give a Reiwa boy something? Tsuji winning early sets him up to succeed, but Goto versus Naito is always a good match. Either way, I bet the fans will cheer the underdogs over Naito. How do you guys see Reiwa guys going forward? Is Ren and Yota the real chosen ones?
A lot to unpack with that question. So, I'll just start by saying that I was really anticipating the story being Sonata as the ex-champion being the stronger challenge for Tsuji, who I was assuming at the time was just a foregone conclusion, the guy that they're going to put in that spot at Sakura Genesis with Naito to draw the biggest house that they could, because to me, it's like they're not going to do Sonata 3 again in such a short period of time. Tsuji makes more sense, but I felt like Tsuji Sonata tells the story where Tsuji beats the ex-champion, he avenges the loss from this past year's Dominion, and that sets him up to have the strongest on paper run through the tournament that he possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
And instead they had Goto win, and that completely deconstructed my Sonata was always going to be the guy, and kind of lends more credence to the idea that Finlay probably might have been the one that was going to go through, especially if Goto ends up winning, for all the people that thought Finlay was for sure going to win. And then it almost feels like there's a good chance they might have just transferred that over to Goto, which is highly possible. So, with Goto being at this stage of his career, the one drawback of him winning the tournament is he's like failed at challenging for the title almost more. I can't remember if it's him or Suzuki, but I know they're both up there where nobody has failed as many times. And I think it is Goto.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Goto.
So granted, this is a different title, but it's still the main title of New Japan. If he fails again, pretty much done. Like, I don't see a path for, who knows, maybe we're in a weird time. Like, Evil and Sonata won the title, so anything's possible.
Right.
But, as far as so it is possible. I guess he could win it, but I doubt it, man, because you look at the way the schedule's going, and I don't think either of these, whoever wins, I don't think that they're taking that title off of Naito. I think Naito's carrying that belt into Chicago against Mox. And I feel like it's going to be Tsuji, because if you kind of look at it, like, usually the runner-up in this tournament is the guy that gets the Dantaku title challenge in May. But I don't feel like Goto on paper makes sense as being somebody that you can strongly build that title shot around if he loses,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Tsuji is, but then again, we're running into that situation again. If Goto is the guy and he fails, then he's done. So that would be a definitive marker in his career. Plus, he is still chasing after the IWGP title or tag titles, and that's another thing that I think people are forgetting about in all of this. I think that there is a good chance, just based on the booking, the lack of booking of Jon Moxley in the tag team tournament for AEW, the fact that him and Claudio just came off of a major pay-per-view win over FTR, and they're not even in the tag team tournament. And one thing I'm not hearing anybody else really talk about, you look at, they're like, well, what is that? Is that just booking malpractice? Is what's going on? And it's like, well, he's got a date in April with Naito. And I don't see a credible runner-up to challenge in May for whoever holds that title at that point. I think that Mox is going to lose or is going to win that title from Naito in April and then just skip the Dontaku tour entirely. And we're just not going to have a title challenger because I don't see a valid title challenger that's coming out of this scenario.
Well, if you go with the original booking and the whole the runner-up gets the title shot, it should be Finlay. So if Finlay lost to Tsuji, there's history between Finlay and Moxley. So maybe
that's true.
And Dontaku is usually that's the Bullet Club show, right? When the anniversary of Bullet Club, like they could have done Finlay, Jon Moxley in the main event for Dontaku. There also is Resurgence that's happening before Dontaku. So yeah, I think it's a very
in the same month.
Yeah, same month. So I do think it's a very real possibility that Jon Moxley could win the IWGP World title. I know people aren't really focused on that match yet, but I think that's going to play into what's going to happen here in New Japan Cup and who's going to be challenging going forward. So yeah.
Normally we like to look and see who the runner-up is in this tournament because they usually, like we said before, are the person that gets that Dontaku shot. And I'm just not seeing this unless it's Goto wins and then Tsuji is the guy at Dontaku, which I don't think does a lot for Tsuji. I think if you're with Tsuji here, it's shit or get off the pot time. Like, give him his Zack Sabre Jr. run through the tournament so that you can establish him as a main event player in the future. You know, now's that time. He doesn't have to win the title, but he needs to win the cup and do big business with Naito, and we can see where we're at with him. That's what I think they're doing. And then it's like, to me, Goto doesn't scream Dontaku challenger. Right. And if he does, and if he, you know, you did bring up the thing with David Finlay, but one thing I'm kind of looking at the tea leaves and I'm like, they got that big show in, what is that? That's in California. It's in Ontario, California, right?
Yeah, Resurgence, yeah.
It's a big building. Another big building. And when they told us that they're doing another big building in such a short amount of time, I was like, that seems awfully ambitious of them. Don't you think? Like, are we just supposed to assume without a card right now, a couple months out, that they're just going to do really good business in that building there? And now I'm thinking like, oh, they might put the title on Mox. And then at that point, Dontaku, you can do your Bullet Club thing. You could have Nick Nemeth versus Finlay again, or whatever other major titles you want to have. And then in the States, they run Jon Moxley in California, and that will actually draw in that building. And they, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the ticket sales are already very good for that show with nothing announced. So yeah, if you announce Jon Moxley is defending the title against whoever, I think that will help the show even more.
I think that's what's happening, man. Like, I strongly believe that.
Yeah.
And so I would say I wouldn't be surprised if what we're seeing here is Tsuji wins, fails in his challenge of Naito, and then Naito turns around and drops the belt to Jon Moxley in April. And then from that point, I mean, Moxley would have the title, you know, definitely through Resurgence, maybe Dontaku, but I'm not going to count on it. But then you've got Forbidden Door and you've got Dominion, and that's both of those things are going to lead us into G1 season. I don't know where he fits into all of those plans, but I can kind of see a potential, you know, path for him if he does have the title on him. Plus, you know, they'd probably do some sort of title match in AEW at some point on TV as well, if that were the case.
Yeah. Next question here from Rambo and Slam Pig. He says, are you under the impression that Finlay's illness radically changed the outcome of the tournament? I had him winning the whole thing.
I don't know. I can't say for sure, but I don't think I think it's one of those things where people that believe that are going to have some level of confirmation bias, but maybe even some level of plausibility. And they can point to some of these booking decisions and say, see, and maybe they're right. But at the same time, we don't know. The one thing I do know is I don't know anybody that had Goto versus Tsuji on their ballot at the end of the day. Like, I don't know anyone that had that, and I'm not even mad about it. I think it's a great match. I think there's a great story because it's a crossroads match for both guys.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, what was that, 2016 G1 where Goto slides into the finals to face Kenny.
A little bit. It kind of reminds me more of the 1996 King of the Ring finals when Stone Cold Steve Austin was fighting Jake the Snake Roberts.
Mm.
You know,
kind of the young guy versus the veteran.
I wouldn't call him the veteran so much as the Bible thumping alcoholic who who has no business being in the finals of a tournament at this point in time. And then you have Stone Cold Steve Austin, the next biggest star ready to break out. And, you know, that's what I'm seeing here personally.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to know what Finlay was going to happen here. I think there's definitely a good chance he could have won and fail up from losing to Nemeth, but maybe the play was for Tsuji to beat Finlay. And then you do another Finlay-Nemeth match, and then Tsuji faces Naito. So, yeah, we'll never know. Nathif asks, with Finlay out, are we going to see someone new get established as a contender? If not, what is it going to take for NJPW to push forward with establishing new main eventers?
Yeah, I think they need to have a change in the booking. I'm not saying fire Gato necessarily, but you know, we're not going to belabor the point. But he's been in the book for probably longer than most great bookers ever in the history of wrestling, and they need fresh ideas, and they need to take some chances on some guys that, like, I don't even think they're that crazy of chances. I mean, I'm sure there's things that we're not privy to, but you know, there's stars waiting to be, you know, mined out of the mire and the muck. All you got to do is, I can see it. I can see it in these guys, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes them pulling the trigger.
Yeah, stop being so conservative and take some chances with the right people. Yeah, I mean, there's so much talent that they have access to still. They're just not making the right choices.
Well, that is going to do it for the review portion. So we do have one miniature preview. So coming up this Wednesday, March the 20th from Aor Nagaoka, we have the New Japan Cup Finals. Only 2 matches so far at the time of this recording have actually been announced. The first one is a singles match between Kanemaru and Yo. And the finals of the New Japan Cup, Goto versus Tsuji. We do have a lot of questions here, but I mean, Jeremy, quick thoughts on the card and, you know, predictions.
Yeah, I'm assuming Yo is going to beat Kanemaru to set up Yo challenging Show for the junior title at probably Sakura Genesis. And then the finals, I mean, I want Tsuji to win. I mean, I do see a line where Goto could win, especially if they're going to just keep their original booking if Finlay was going to win. And you do the whole story, you know, his dad dies, he won the cup for his dad, and then he goes to challenge Naito, which in the past they've had good matches. But I think, you know, we need to push the young guys, we need to get the stars over, and Tsuji, he's gotten the great crowd reactions every night. He's having really good matches. I think the play is to have him beat Goto and then go on to face Naito at Sakura Genesis.
We had a question here. I agree with you. I really don't have divergent thoughts in that regard, and I've kind of shared what I thought. We do have a lot of questions. Dark Soldier asked, the GU and G1 may not stand for Goto, but the J in the New Japan Cup most certainly does. I don't know how the J stands for Goto, but he says Goto is going to finish the story, right?
I mean, he could. I mean, he's already done the story of winning New Japan Cup. But yeah, he's not.
He's got to beat Naito if he's going to finish the story.
He's not beating Naito.
Death Triangle 720 says, do you think New Japan should boost up the NJC final with big matches top to bottom? They usually don't.
Yeah, it's usually a bunch of undercard. I mean, I'm surprised we're getting Yo Kanemaru. It's usually a lot of just undercard tag matches to set up Sakura Genesis, which is, the big April show. And then plus also there's Windy City Riot shortly after Sakura Genesis. So you're going to need to build up matches for both of those big shows. So, I mean, for this, I'm fine with just the normal stuff and focus on the finals.
I don't know if you noticed, Jeremy, but I feel like in the past, the New Japan Cup and then Sakura Genesis were a lot closer together on the calendar.
Yeah.
And this year, like right now, they do have other house shows, but in terms of what's airing, and this might change, but as of right now, this show is going to be the last aired show in March. And then we're not back to New Japan's schedule until the April 3rd road to Sakura Genesis. And then April 6th, we have Sakura Genesis 2024. So I was a little surprised by that there's that much downtime between the finals of the tournament and the actual title challenge.
Yeah, well, this tour was pretty fast and furious, so maybe they're giving guys a little downtime to actually, rest and recoup and get ready for the next tour.
Yeah. Sad Goal 8860 says, if Tsuji challenges Naito and wins, what does that mean for LIJ? What does it mean for Naito? How long is Tsuji champion? And what are who are his challengers? Who beats him?
So yeah, that's a lot of fantasy booking there. Also, if he beats Naito, I think you could tell a whole story of maybe him taking over LIJ, but I don't even want to get through that whole rabbit hole because I like we talked about, I think Jon Moxley winning is a very strong possibility. I don't think that Tsuji's going to beat Naito. I think they're going to want to make that Naito Moxley match a title match.
I agree. One thing I did think about, though, and I saw where Chris had shared this online, and he said, the last two major groups, House of Torture and Just Five Guys, were kind of born out of former LIJ members challenging Naito in major spots for the title and then breaking off. And there is, there's precedent there. So, maybe history could repeat itself. But when I started looking at the current state of things, it's like United Empire without kind of a defined leader, Chaos without kind of a defined leader, Hantai kind of, unless you count Tanahashi, like they are sort of undefined at this time as well. And sure, some of these Reiwa guys could go off and form their own groups, which is possible. And maybe we see some of these other groups disbanded, but it wouldn't be outside of the realm of possibility that they split off and take over some of those groups, like for instance, I'm just throwing it out there. Tsuji takes over United Empire, or Tsuji becomes the leader of Chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are possibilities. Or yeah, he kind of creates his own little group. We saw him kind of partner up with Xander Khan Jr. From CMLL during the World Tag League. Maybe he gets Xander Khan and a couple other guys and kind of creates his own little new unit. That would be pretty cool.
Do you think Xander Khan posts like photos of Tokyo and then puts captions of "Take Me Back" underneath?
I haven't followed Xander Khan on social media. Maybe he is doing that.
Rambo and Slam Pig says, I'm not into the idea of an outsider winning the IWGP title. Given the state of the promotion right now, if Naito's health doesn't allow him to hold that belt in main event for the entire year, who do they have who can realistically draw good houses in Japan during the bulk of the year?
Well, yeah, and again, back to what we've been saying, I think Naito Mox is going to be a title match, and I think Mox is going to win, and I think that's what at least May through June, you're going to have an outsider, as the champion.
If they were going to go with an insider, wouldn't it probably be like Zack Sabre Jr.?
Yeah, the guy that's there that could probably draw and carry the company would be Zack.
But then he's got to have the right heels to work against.
Right. Who does he work? They don't really.
It's getting tough.
Yeah.
It's getting tough. Yeah, I agree with you. The way that this tournament has panned out, and then the way that, I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves, and I'm looking at the business that they're doing in the States, and I'm looking at AEW's lack of booking for Jon Moxley, and it's telling me that there's a good chance he wins that title. So yeah. Death Triangle 720 says, with the cup coming to an end, what do you think of the cup overall?
Like we mentioned before, this was the worst New Japan Cup that we've watched and reviewed in the history of this show. And the first New Japan Cup we reviewed was 2018. So yeah, this was not a very good tournament. This was the tournament was sacrificed to get heat for House of Torture so that they could be vanquished in the end by Tsuji. But I think it really put a black eye on the tournament and just the overall kind of buzz and excitement.
2017 wasn't so great, but the finals were great. But I mean, we ended up with Bad Luck Fale in the finals. So that tells you something there, you know?
Yeah.
Les Commission 7252 says, you guys have questioned if Shingo needs a change out of LIJ by building his own faction. Let's say Shingo wins the New Japan Cup tournament. Well, he didn't, so it's already too late. Sorry, Les Commission. He had some other, I'll just read it in just to be nice. But let's say he wins the cup and then faces Naito in a long year-waited rematch for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Evil and Sonata left Naito as winners of the tournament and joined another faction. Do you guys think that it's time for New Japan to pull the trigger, give Shingo a new faction, become leader to that main event push? And unfortunately, it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, this question probably came in before the Shingo Evil result, obviously. And yeah, I do think Shingo is a great guy that could break off, lead his own faction, and be a top star. Will Ospreay was on Talk is Jericho last week and, put over Shingo and how he's one of the guys that really kind of helped carry that company during the pandemic. And we've mentioned that, and we've seen that. And I think Shingo is a guy that's very underutilized. I think that he would thrive as a faction leader and really solidify him as a main event guy. But this could be a similar situation. This could happen with Tsuji, like we just mentioned. Like this could be maybe they're going to break Tsuji off, and Tsuji is going to get his own group.
Yeah, I agree. Death Triangle 720 says, does Shingo or Tsuji have to leave LIJ? I feel like they could tell the LIJ war story without people leaving the group. Congo did that in Noah and didn't break up. My feelings on it is, at this point, LIJ has to be one of, if not the most successful star-creating faction in the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling, because you look at how many world champions and faction leaders and main eventers that they've turned out on both the heavyweight and the junior heavyweight side. And already right now, I think the three guys they have in there are probably the most talented group of heavyweights that they have currently, and something's got to break one way or the other. I think there's more money in, I saw someone kind of brand it in our Discord as the Naito-verse. I think there's more money in having those guys fight, but yeah, we saw Suzuki Gun end somewhat amicably, but I think there's more money in, the dramatic breakup personally.
Yeah, especially I think for a guy like Tsuji, who's in that Jay White role of, I'm only a part of this faction because I want to get to the champion. I want to use this faction to get me to where I want to go, not because I'm in love with being a part of LIJ. So the story is very clear and set up there for a Tsuji turn, which I think could be a really good thing for him. Or, you can have Shingo, the grizzled, established veteran who's tired of following Naito and wants to lead his own thing. So I think either of those guys could split off and do their own thing.
Last question here, Rambo and Slam Pig said, and I'm not going to answer this question just because it echoes some of the sentiments we already shared earlier, and I agree with them. But thoughts on the English commentary team? It seems like Gino and Walker have some real chemistry, and Walker has made some real progress growing into his role.
Yeah, I thought Gino and Walker were really great together, like we already mentioned. And I hope that this is not the end of Gino for a while. This is the first time he's been back for a long time. So I think he's a great guy to have in there when Chris is not available for the tour. So yeah, more Gino and Walker.
Great. Well, let's jump into the news. So the first big news item here, Gabe Kidd is staying with New Japan. Kidd confirmed a Fightful report on social media Sunday that he had re-signed with the company as of this past weekend. We had a couple questions here. Staleburger Bun says, now that Gabe has officially re-signed with NJPW. What do you think his ceiling is for the next year and a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what his ceiling is, but now that he's signed, I think you should push him. You should do something with him. I don't know if that's him, having the Bullet Club Civil War and kind of trying to take over Bullet Club leadership. I think he's a guy that a never title run would be great for him. I mean, he's a guy that I would try to build up to be an IWGP title challenger.
Yeah, if I was rating his stock, I'd tell you to buy.
Yeah.
Buy. Foot Impossible 7291 or 2791. Sorry about that, Foot Impossible. They said, what directions would you like to see Gabe Kidd go in now that he has re-signed with to the company? He is a madman,
Yeah, like I said, I mean, you push the guy. You have him under contract. He's a young talent. He was he was both in the LA dojo and the Noge dojo. Like, push him, build him up.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, Jeremy, but ever since the end of the dog collars or dog pound steel cage match, what do they call it?
Yeah, the dog pound cage match.
We really haven't seen Coughlin, Connors, or Drilla Maloney come back, but we still have, and then obviously David Finley's out with an illness now. The only two War Dogs members that we've seen on this tour is him and Gabe Kidd. But we have seen kind of Gabe teaming with the other OG Bullet Club members. And I'm wondering, hopefully War Dogs comes back, but what if War Dogs just devolves back into just the main Bullet Club unit, which I think is possible at this point.
Yeah. I mean, Clark and Drilla are still the junior tag team champions. So hopefully they're not running away with the belts.
I mean, he tore his bicep off the bone in his last match. Drill Maloney did.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he, will even be cleared when he comes back.
Yeah.
Death trying as far as where I'd like to see him go, though, I'd like to see him move into more of a singles position and challenge for titles and have great singles matches. G1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Death Triangle 720 says, with the Finley out and Gabe resigned, is now the best time to pull the trigger on Gabe Kidd and win a singles belt. I don't know if I think that he should win at this moment, but he should definitely be in that conversation, challenging and having those types of matches.
Yeah, again, never title, global title. There's a lot of things outside the world title that you can use to start elevating him and building him up.
KOPW. The new Never Six-Man champions will be crowned in Taiwan. NJPW announced on Tuesday that a one-night tournament to crown new champions will take place at Wrestling World 2024 in Taiwan on April 14th at the ZEP New Taipei in New Taipei City. So we're getting a one-night tournament just days after Windy City Riot. Congratulations to Yuji Nagata's son for winning the right to represent Japan at the All-Asian Under-15 Freestyle 75-kilogram weight limit. So congratulations on that. Sunday, March 31st, there was an announcement that at your call, Zack Sabre Jr. enters the 2024 Revolution Rumble. So he'll be there. And then finally, we had an announcement from OPW Australian Stampede presented by Bret Hart that on Saturday, April 13th, we're getting a singles match. First time ever, Robbie Eagles versus Kushida.
That should be really good.
Yep.
And that's going to lead us into some other questions here. Barry Walsh says, with all the talk of the new generation, especially the Reiwa 4, are the British guys more consistent? Gabe Kidd is clearly the most consistent of the War Dogs, and Drilla is killing it too. Callum Newman already seems like he has the same potential as Tsuji. I know it's a domestic Japanese product, but should they maybe get some trainers from RevPro or adapt some of their system to the dojo with those lads, to me at least, being more consistent than Narita, Uemura, and Umino?
Well, yes and no. I mean, a lot of those guys have wrestled for... Actually, all of those guys have wrestled for a lot longer. So, yeah, they're young, but they started younger and even somewhat refined their work here in New Japan. But they wrestled for a lot longer than their counterparts in the Reiwa guys. So I don't think it's necessarily even a one-to-one comparison.
Yeah, Gabe Kidd, I mean, he's been in both the Noge LA dojo. Callum Newman's been in the Noge dojo, these tours he's been doing, and Drilla, he's been wrestling for a while. He went through WWE NXT. He's been all over Rev Pro, been all over the UK, and I think he's gotten better since being in New Japan. So yeah, I think they definitely have an experience edge over the Ray Wugs.
Yeah, but Gabe Kidd he had a whole wrestling career before he even came over as a Lion. A lot of people he was a champion in what culture? Yeah. That's how long he's been wrestling.
His other question is, with the frankly weird situation with Kevin Kelly and Ira Gambani resulting in what appears to be Kevin removed from commentary, do you think New Japan would welcome him back, or is it only different types of allegations they don't mind? Slightly tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that last week, and I really don't know. I believe that him leaving was done somewhat amicably. I can't speak to the situation, so I don't know, but it appeared that everything was amicable from what I could tell. So is it possible he comes back? Yes, but I don't, again, part of the reason he left was for better home life, less travel, and they've already found a replacement. So, Kevin, I don't think Kevin was necessarily happy being the third man on the booth and not necessarily the lead play-by-play. And New Japan has a lead play-by-play guy, so they'd either have to change that, or if they did bring Kevin in, he'd be third man in the booth. I don't know. It gets a little murky and messy at that point.
Yeah, honestly, I totally see him going to WWE at some point.
Yeah, I've heard other people just completely discount that idea, and I'm like, I don't see why. He's been part of that system. He has a lot to offer in terms of still being extremely talented, plus mentorship. I could see him being I could see him on the main roster, but I could also see him being like a focal voice in like developmental with like NXT probably.
Yeah. Also, The Rock's back, so we have to have The Rock making fun of him on screen at some point. Next question here from Chase in the Discord says, nothing to do with the recent shows, but what are your guys' favorite Naito and Yujiro tag match, if one exists?
It's funny, for the reputation that No Limit has, I can't think of very many great No Limit matches. Like the main one that comes to mind and I wouldn't even say it was like great, but it's pretty good, is like them versus the Machine Guns at Wrestle Kingdom 3. That's like a standout, but I think it's still like maybe a 4-star match. Maybe it probably isn't.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any No Limit matches.
They spent a lot of time though in TNA and weren't really given the opportunity to work that, main event tag team style while they were there. And they spent a lot of time in CMLL, and I'm sure there's probably some gems from there that I've just never seen. But from their time in Japan, I can't think of too many like classics. I know they had matches with the Dudleys. I don't think those were very good. So
next question from Discord Daddy says, Oiwa and Kiyomiya won Noah's tag league and we're scheduled we're scheduled for a title shot until Kaito got injured. He's been away since the G1. Do you expect him back this year? What factors do you think NJPW considers when bringing guys back from excursion?
Hopefully it's like how are they going to debut him? What is the gimmick? What's the storyline? What's the projections? How do we maximize the potential here? So we've seen them do that to varying degrees of success with different individuals. And I feel lately the returns haven't been as strong as they should be.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like Tsuji was probably the best recent return as far as the initial debut, like the angle coming out on Dontaku and then the Dominion match, but then the follow-up has not been great ever since. I would say, Jay White maybe? Well, I guess, I don't know. His initial debut wasn't great. He kind of evolved after the debut. Hiromu's probably the best Young Lion debut since we've been doing the show.
I would still say Jay White was good. I thought the match with Tanahashi was really good, and he lost to him, but then he turned around and, turned on Kenny like the next night and won the belt the next tour and was kind of off to the races. So I think that they did a good job with Jay. And since he's probably been the strongest return from excursion, in the past, at least since, after Hiromu.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question here from Brutal Rainbows. Between Evil, Sonata, and Sho and Yo, whose tag team breakup rivalry has been a bigger flop?
It's equal. They both suck. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Neither breakup has been really great. That's a really hard one to choose between.
You don't have to. It's our show, and they're equal, man. It's true. It's they're both really shitty.
Yeah. Death Triangle 720 says, do you think New Japan lacks variety in their matches now more than before?
Right now, yeah, it does feel like that. It does feel like people are working a very similar style. Now, on the big shows, that might be lessened, but there was a time where you'd have 5 or 6. I mean, I hate to say this, and it's going to anger some people, but you tune on an AEW pay-per-view, and you have a pretty wide variety of styles of work and match on their pay-per-views, their big match shows, and New Japan's really not like that right now. It's a lot of guys doing a lot of the same stuff and a lot of the same style matches on these tours. Maybe that will change soon, but that's kind of what it feels like lately, unless there's like a gimmick or something.
Yeah, then also with this tour, House of Torture all over, up and down the card, kind of the same antics. Yeah, it's kind of repetitive right now. His other question, he says, do you think the slow and steady approach is hurting New Japan at the moment, unlike other companies like AJPW and DDT?
Yes.
Yep. I don't really follow those companies, but yeah, New Japan does need to speed the things up here. Reddit user Wukong901 says, would you have Naito hold the belt till next Wrestle Kingdom? If not, who can you see taking it off of him?
It's not that I wouldn't have him hold it till then. I know it sounds bad faith, but it's really not. I am concerned about his health, but at the same time, I see the reactions he's getting in the buildings, and I'm like, he's their biggest star. Like he really is their big star right now, but how long can he do this is the real question. And we need to make room for the next big generation of stars. I think Jon Moxley's winning that belt. And I'm even going to go as far as to say that at the beginning of this year and going into last year, you and I, Jeremy, were getting a lot of questions. Who do you see winning these tournaments, especially after we had the news that we were having all these different people leave the company? And you and I both said they should likely push 2 Reiwa guys, probably Tsuji to win the cup, and then probably Umino to win the G1. And then you have to think to yourself, well, who does he take the belt off of if he's winning the G1, or who does he challenge? And I think it's going to be Jon Moxley. I think we're going to get a situation where Jon carries that belt all the way to Wrestle Kingdom. I know that the optics of it don't look good. And I know there's people that are listening that probably think we sound crazy. But I think that that's the strongest way you could establish Umino and do the biggest business at a Wrestle Kingdom this year is that match. And it's, hey, for everybody that wanted to infantilize Umino and call him little buddy, little homie, and make him the sidekick junior for all this time when it came to his son and his dad, here you and people that wanted stories. Well, here's your story. The big match you guys always wanted, you're gonna get it. But it's also you're gonna have to live with Jon Moxley being the champion. The bad thing about it is he'll probably be gone a lot of the time. The good thing is he'll probably come back and work big shows and maybe even will work the G1, hopefully. In a way that like Kenny Omega did when he was champion.
Yeah, I mean, Moxley was one of those guys. I mean, he was initially signed in New Japan before he signed to AEW, and it's kind of been that key kind of guy that's kept the companies together and was a big part of them working together. And yeah, we've seen, pre-pandemic and even post-pandemic that Jon Moxley's a guy that loves being in Japan, and there's something about Jon Moxley in New Japan that just hits a little bit different than when he's in AEW. We saw him come back for the Dominion 6-man tag last year. That was absolutely incredible. So yeah, and he's not really doing much in AEW right now. They won the feud against FTR, and they're not in the tag team tournament. So you could utilize him in New Japan for the summer. He beats Naito in April, and then there's Resurgence in California. He can work that. He can work on Taku. Then there's Dominion. He could work that. Then Forbidden Door, I'm sure they'll do a title match there. And then hopefully, things work out where he can be in the G1. And then, he could even drop the title in the fall. Or, like you mentioned, they could do the whole story of Umino wins the G1. And then that's your big Wrestle Kingdom, story and direction. And do Moxley defending against Umino. And that's how Umino gets his big first title win by beating his former, current mentor, Jon Moxley.
I think that's the story we're going to be honest with you.
Makes sense. Next question here from Sad Goal 8860. What are your thoughts on Shibata versus Danielson this past weekend?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I have not watched it yet. I've heard a lot of really good things on it. I think Rich and James both went 4.5 on it. I've heard Lanza give a good review.
That means it was 4.
I heard I listened to Joe's review of it today. He was pretty high on it as well. So yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out. But it's pretty cool that match did happen.
Yeah, I'd like to watch it. When was it? It was a Saturday?
Yeah, it was this past Collision.
Yeah, I don't watch Collision. I'm not a collider.
Last question here from the Admiral Dong. With LIJ infighting being foreshadowed with Naito, Shingo, and Tsuji, do you think this will force the suspected United Empire power struggle for leadership to be out on the back burner to save having two similar stories playing out, or will they tandem while playing out at the same time?
I don't know anything specifically, but I feel like I might be onto something when I mentioned how there are several guys that are out there, like the Reiwa guys and some other bigger major stars that need to be in a position of leading factions. And you have several factions all simultaneously without leaders. And I feel like you can tell kind of a holistic story amongst these groups to see these new leaders rise up potentially.
Yeah, and I know there's been a lot of comments from TJP saying that he is, the leader of United Empire.
No.
It reminds me a lot of when Carl Anderson was quote unquote the leader of Bullet Club before AJ Styles came in. So yeah, I don't think TJP is going to be the leader or the de facto leader for now. I think that either Cobb or Okan is going to take over, or one of these other guys that needs a faction is going to take over.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for the questions, and we're going to go to recommended match of the week. So last week I recommended the NJPW World TV title match from MLW Intimidation Games, the champion Matt Riddle defending against TMDK's Bad Dude Tito.
Jeremy, I don't think in good conscience we could nominate this match for, like, say, excursion match of the year contendership, because it's just around 5 minutes. But fuck, if this isn't an incredible 5-minute match, like, it's really, that really is like a badass match. You, me, Rich, and James, we have this thing called the 5-minute match Hall of Fame, the greatest matches under 5 minutes. And some illuminary matches that are on that list are like Mang and the Giant, Kushida Hiromu, 1-2-3 Kid Owen, Brock Goldberg, Del Rio Ziggler, Kenta versus Ricky Marvin, And I feel like this match should be on that list. That's how good of a sub 5 minute match it is. I thought it just fucking rocked.
Yeah, this match was awesome. I mean, from the get-go, Riddle throws a big V-trigger knee. They're exchanging German suplexes, and it's just high-pace suplexes, strikes, counters, fighting spirit, cool moves. Yeah, this is more of this kind of stuff is what I would like to see in actual New Japan.
Yeah, I agree. That was awesome.
Yeah, and Riddle got the win with the Brostone and retains the title.
Yeah, I would still go like 3.5.
Yeah.
For a 5 minute match, 3.5, that's really good.
Yeah.
That was a great match. And if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, it is on NJPW World. So if you're a subscriber, you can watch it on there.
And then my recommendation was I don't even remember where it was
from Relentless Wrestling.
It was a Relentless Wrestling title match between TJP and Filthy Tom Lawler. And bro, if this wasn't like a throwback to the heights of the super indie period from like 2015, 2014, that's what this felt like. Like kind of just this really cool, obscure, like it looks shitty, but in terms of production, like it looks shitty, but then like it's actually very good production. It's just kind of like a low quality setting, but then the graphics were really high level done. And it's like, oh, I remember when like PWG was like this, when they were like in Reseda and AEW and stuff like that. And kind of gave me that early Evolve sort of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And crowd wasn't the greatest, not the biggest crowd, not the most boisterous crowd, but I thought that Filthy and TJP worked a really great match, told an awesome story. And I still don't think that I would probably put this on my, it's kind of weird. Like with TJP, he's like really good, but he kind of like always just tops out at this one very specific level before the matches like get to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd probably go 4.25 on this. I thought it was like fucking awesome for what it was.
Yeah, it was really good. I thought the crowd was actually pretty good. They were doing the whole like TJP 2-2 chants, and
they did get some "This is awesome" down the line.
Yeah, so to me, I thought the crowd seemed pretty into it, and it seemed like they were also continuing the whole dissension of Team Filthy story. Jarrell Nelson was out there, and he like threw TJP back in the ring and was like trying to help Tom out. But yeah, they worked a really good matchup. Towards the end, Jarrell getting involved allowed TJP to spit the red mist onto Tom, the Oswong mist, and get the pin over Tom Lawler. But yeah, I mean, this was like two really, really good pro wrestlers having a really, really good pro wrestling match, and they're super technical. There's great counters, great reversals. So yeah, definitely. I don't think it's going to be an excursion match of the year, but it's definitely a really good match to watch.
It's a great little hidden gem, and if you haven't seen it, I'd recommend it.
Yeah, it's free on YouTube, on Relentless Wrestling's YouTube channel. So if you haven't watched it yet, definitely go and give that match a watch.
It was definitely something where I was like, I'd like to see more Relentless. And like, you really, bro, I try to like, they don't even have a cage match.
I know, because initially when you had told me it was a match, I was like trying to look it up, and I was like, I couldn't find it on Cage Match. I was like, what? Where is this match? But
yeah, kind of wild.
Yeah.
Well, I have another excursion match of the week. I'm gonna take us back to January 10th in Dragon Gate for the Shingo Mochizuki match. That is sitting at, I believe, an 8.69 on Cage Match currently. All
right, let's do that. Then I'm going to go back to MLW, our good friend, Rocky.
Why you keep taking us to MLW?
Because our good friend, Rocky Romero, had defended the MLW middleweight title against Mystico. And that match is up on NJPW World, also from Intimidation Games.
Yeah, and not this coming Friday, but the Friday after that, we're gonna be at MLW War Chamber in Tampa. So if you're listening and you're gonna be there, hit us up. Maybe we'll grab a drink. Maybe we'll take a photo with you if you give us $20 each.
We'll give you a hot dog and a handshake.
No, but we'll be there, and there's going to be New Japan talent on that card. Kojima will be there. Ichiban Sweet Boy is going to be on that card. So
Bad Dude Tito.
The eel Unagi, she's going to be on the card as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, dude, I don't know what it is, but MLW is kind of like picking up a little like steam right now.
Well, I was a little disappointed when I found out that we're watching 2 War Games matches in the same night. Like, I'm not a big fan of that, but I've never seen a War Games match live ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of my favorite, stipulations. And I can't wait to complain about how they did it wrong.
Well, at least they're actually doing the double rings. I think the last MLW
War Chamber was like in 1.
Yeah, it was 1 ring, and it had the same rules, and it didn't hit the same.
Well, as of right now, we think it's 2 rings because the map layout at the Coliseum shows 2 rings. That don't mean they're getting 2 rings on the night of the show.
I think I get their press releases, and I'm pretty sure they said it's going to be double ring.
It doesn't matter if they say that it's double rings. It doesn't mean they're getting 2 rings for that show. We might walk into the Coliseum that night in St. Pete. There's 1 ring sitting in the middle of that building. It really just depends on, who's going to come through with that ring, chasing Rance.
Oh, man. All right, well, that's going to wrap things up here for us this week. Next week, we'll be back to review the New Japan Cup Finals. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave a rating and review and leave a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On X, you can follow us at Cash Strong Style. You can follow at Social Suplex. Follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy and Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. You can join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Summerwitz. Also, there's a little All Things Elite little side mini podcast with Floyd and Sir Sam Brown. They're doing a little bracketology for the AEW Tag Team Title Tournament. Also check out Imp's WWE Adventure with the Implications Matthew Mayer, Wrestling Art with Chris Things, Tunnel Talk with Ali and Leah, and the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.